They would come across a few Heaven Saint Masters and Saint Rulers from time to time, as they made their way through the maze-like hallways, but no conflict ensured. There would also be some Saint Rulers who wanted to join Yu's party, but they were all turned down. They had been trapped within here for 3 whole days before they finally found the correct way out. They arrived on the 2nd floor, but did not come across any dangers during that time. It seemed like the Divine Hall did not possess dangers that targeted Saint Rulers and those below. In these 3 days, Saint Rulers and Heaven Saint Masters constantly entered the Divine Hall from outside. The number of people within the Divine Hall grew to several thousand, though most of them were Heaven Saint Masters. The news of the trapped Saint Kings had already spread to the 10 Protector clans and various ancient clans, which immediately shocked them greatly. The Protector clans viewed this with great importance. The Saint Kings immediately hurried from the Protector clans. They stopped outside, as they discussed the methods to save them with their brows furrowed. Even Saint Kings from Mercenary City had personally come. Within the formation space of the Divine Hall, the trapped Saint Kings remained seated on the floor. All of them worked hard to suppress the leakage of their energy. He Yu and Hong Lian both equipped their origin energy armors, which could drag it out a little even though it could not completely stop the leakage. A few weaker Saint Kings had already begun to pale. They trembled slightly, as they sat on the ground. They were clearly suffering quite a lot. The Saint Kings that the sword chi had struck outside in particular, had already powerlessly collapsed on the ground. Their eyes were dull and filled with despair, as their bodies had already lost all their energy. The loss of energy could not lead to them losing their level of cultivation. Even with all their energy gone, they could just replenish it outside, and they would return to how they were before without much time. However, Saint Kings without any of their energy were extremely weak. Particularly in this odd formation space, their abilities as Saint Kings had been restricted and they could not use spatial and world force, so it reduced them to ordinary people. Among all the people, the only person who did not have energy leaking out was Jian Chen. The power and uniqueness of chaotic force were just incomparable to ordinary energy. However, Jian Chen still needed to devote all his strength into suppressing it, even though that was the case. I hope you can successfully obtain the Divine Hall, or all of us trapped here will just be waiting for our deaths, Jian Chen prayed inside. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. During that time, countless people entered the Divine Hall, and people could be seen everywhere within it. However, most of them were Heaven Saint Masters. During that period of time, Yu's group had already passed through 8 floors of mazes and arrived on the 9th floor of the Divine Hall. Undoubtedly, the surface area of the 9th floor was much smaller than the floors below. It seemed more like an extremely large hall when gazing out. There were 9 huge stone pillars with simple carvings that held up the ceiling. Vague moonlight force revolved around each pillar and radiated with a tremendous pressure. The hall was beautifully decorated. All the stone tables, seats, and various ornaments were carved from the same type of jade. Every single item was extremely exquisite. It was impossible to estimate their value. A mighty but extravagant throne hovered in the air at the end of the hall. On the throne lay a 2-meter-long, exquisitely crafted scepter that shone with a moonlight haze. It was extremely pleasant to the eye. Yu's party were not the first people to arrive. Before them, various Saint Rulers and a few Heaven Saint Masters had already arrived. Although the hall was not packed, there were several hundred people that had already gathered at the very least. All of them stared at the staff on the throne with bright eyes, and no one made any noise. The atmosphere was extremely weird. Although the treasure was right before them, no one went ahead to take it. All the people who could arrive here were very clever. They knew that the first person to go up for the treasure would be the first one to suffer from all the attacks of the people present. Even 9th Heavenly Layer Saint Rulers would struggle greatly to leave with their lives intact. That staff definitely is not so simple. It might be hiding some secret. You never know. And that throne is not your ordinary everyday object either. Xia Wang stared unblinkingly at the throne, as he said with a soft voice. Roar! The white tiger narrowed its eyes, as they shone with a threatening light. It immediately took a leap and turned into a blur that shot toward the throne. It viewed the several hundred Saint Rulers and Heaven Saint Master that had gathered as nothing. Xia Wang did not charge up with him. Instead, he remained close to Yu and Kara Liwei to protect him. He kept loyal to his task, to protect the two of them. That's the Winged Tiger God. The Winged Tiger God wants to take the scepter. Quick, stop it. The scepter must hide the cultivation method of Fairy Hao Yu. It might even be the object that can directly control the divine hall. We can't let the winged tiger god obtain it. Whoever gains the scepter will be the one who controls the divine hall. The white tiger's actions shattered the odd atmosphere in the divine hall. At that moment, no one hesitated anymore, as they all charged toward the scepter at their top speeds. The white tiger at the very front also became the target of everyone's attacks, where more than 20 saint rulers sent powerful sword chi at it with a wave of their hands at the same time. Before the great temptation of the divine hall and the cultivation method of fairy Hao Yu, they all lost their minds. The fact that the white tiger was the winged tiger god no longer bothered them. Chapter 1048. Fight for the Divine Hall, 3. Over 20 sword chi from saint rulers shot toward the white tiger, as they radiated with powerful ripples of energy. In order to stop the white tiger from getting close to the throne, none of the saint rulers held back. The white tiger's eyes remained fixed on the scepter. It did not even look at the sword chi behind it. When the sword chi almost struck, the white tiger abruptly began to enlarge and turned into a 10-meter-long white tiger in an instant. It unfurled its huge white wings, while a great energy seemed to be secretly charging up. Whoosh! With the sound of a wild gust, the huge wings of the white tiger suddenly flapped backward. Two huge whirlwinds immediately formed and quickly collided with the sword chi from behind. After it enlarged, the speed of the white tiger skyrocketed. It shot toward the scepter like an arrow, several times faster than before. The powerful sword chi collided with the whirlwinds the white tiger produced. With a muffled boom, the sword chi all shattered into pieces from the spinning wind, and the whirlwinds continued onward without dispersing after blocking the attacks. The whirlwinds obstructed the saint rulers that pursued behind the white tiger, which allowed it to approach the huge hovering throne successfully. There was nothing protecting the throne, so the white tiger leaped onto it without coming across any obstructions. It gripped the scepter with its mouth, before returning along its previous route. It leaped in Yu's direction in the form of a faint blur. The winged tiger god has taken the scepter. Quick, steal it back. Fairy Hao Yu's treasure is right before our eyes. Quickly stop the winged tiger god. Whoever who gets the scepter will be the one who obtains a fortuitous encounter. With the scepter taken, all the people immediately began to churn. There were a few people who were unwilling to see the scepter taken just like that before them. So they fanned on everyone, as they stood on the ground. Everyone had become green with greed. In that moment, all the saint rulers within the hall began to move. They encircled the white tiger with extremely great teamwork and surrounded it from all directions. There were more than 10 saint weapons that shot through the air with powerful ripples of energy, chopping toward the huge body of the tiger with lightning speed. Accompanying them was another wave of over 20 sword chi. The attacks formed a shapeless net in the air that sealed out all routes of escape for the white tiger, as the attacks fell down like a blanket. The white tiger stopped mid-air awe-inspiringly. It looked around with a threatening light in its eyes, before throwing its head up. It tossed the scepter high up into the air, which allowed it to open its mouth and produce an earth-shaking roar. Immediately, visible sound waves quickly began to expand with the white tiger as the epicenter. The sound wave possessed an unimaginable force. When it collided with the saint weapons of the saint kings and the sword chi, all the sword chi dissipated, while the saint weapons in the hands of the saint rulers trembled violently. It seemed like an invisible force was stopping their advance, which not only made it extremely difficult for them to continue onward, but also forced them backward constantly. The sound wave expanded extremely quickly and covered the entire room very soon. It swept past everyone and immediately reduced all their clothes to shreds, forcing them into a horrible shape. Miserable cries rang through the entire room. The white tiger's roar possessed the might of a beast god, so it possessed a penetrative characteristic. It could injure the souls of people. The heaven saint masters all shrieked, as they clutched their heads painfully due to their weaker souls. Only saint rulers could endure it, but even for them, they showed signs of pain. It still affected their souls greatly. The white tiger's strength was not at the peak of Class 7, but it was a winged tiger god after all. It possessed inherited memories and could learn powerful abilities, while its battle prowess was shocking. Just the might of its roar was enough to shock many ninth heavenly layer saint rulers. The combined attacks from several dozen saint rulers collapsed from the roar. The white tiger did not continue to bother with them. It caught the scepter, as it fell down. Then it bounded toward Yu. Leave the scepter, or you won't be leaving today. The saint rulers recovered extremely quickly and courageously charged toward white tiger. All of them had lost their calm before the temptation. Their only desire was to obtain the scepter. In that moment, the white tiger had become the enemy of everyone. All the saint rulers took part in restricting the white tiger's movements, striking the white tiger without holding back at all. They were attempting to kill it. Afar, a few saint rulers even began to charge up their saint-tier battle skills. The white tiger seemed to be agitated as well. It growled deeply as dense killing intent flickered through its vicious eyes. It charged threateningly toward a few saint rulers that blocked its way, as it flapped its wings violently. It shot out powerful wind blades at them. The saint rulers all knew how powerful the winged tiger god was. They faced it as a powerful enemy. They swung their saint weapons as fast as they could, as they chopped at the wind blades. Boom! The wind blades and saint weapons collided, which immediately produced a powerful ripple of energy. The wind blades dispersed, while the powerful force of the collision and the wave of energy knocked back the saint rulers. They all quickly shot backward. At this moment, around a dozen saint rules that shot over from the sides approached the white tiger as well. All their saint weapons shone with a blinding light, as they chopped through the space. They were approaching the white tiger with lightning speed. The white tiger's fur began to glow with a hazy white light, as it blocked the full-powered attacks from the saint rulers with its wings. When the saint weapons landed on the wings, all of the saint rulers felt like their lightning-fast attack had landed on soft cotton. The surging saint force hidden within their saint weapons completely disappeared in that moment. "Crap, its wings have absorbed the energy on our saint weapons," a saint ruler cried out. He was filled with disbelief. After absorbing the energies from more than 10 saint weapons, the wings no longer remained so white. A few extra colors appeared. However, in the next moment, the wings suddenly jolted, and the energy absorbed from the saint weapons immediately poured out like a flood. It knocked all of the saint rulers that had approached far away. At this moment, a pressure that seemed to originate from the world suddenly appeared. It locked tightly onto the white tiger, which caused the space around the white tiger to thicken. It's a saint-tier battle skill. Move away. Sensing the frightening pressure, all the saint rulers changed in expression and immediately moved far away from the white tiger. The white tiger slowly turned around. Its eyes locked onto the 3 saint rulers who were casting saint-tier battle skills. Once locked on, it was impossible to dodge or avoid the saint-tier battle skill. The white tiger could only face it head-on. Chapter 1049. Fight for the Divine Hall, 4. The 3 saint rulers who were casting the saint-tier battle skills all originated from ancient clans and belonged to the 9th heavenly layer. Their saint-tier battle skills were equivalent to attacks from saint kings with their current strengths. The other saint rules had kept the white tiger busy earlier, which provided the 3 saint rulers with enough time to charge up their battle skills. They had completed the charge up now, and the devastating power was about to erupt. A tremendous pressure that originated from the surroundings seemed to flood the entire hall, which caused everyone gathered in there to shiver. They all looked toward the 3 saint rulers with obvious fear and dread. The white tiger revealed a stern gaze once again. With its body as a beast god, it indeed had the power to look down on all the saint rulers, but the battle skills it currently faced was on the level of saint kings. That was enough to threaten it. It was already too late to stop the 3 saint rulers from casting the saint-tier battle skills. The white tiger quickly began to swipe the space before it with its front paws. With every swipe, a tiny ripple would appear. Saint-tier battle skill. Heaven-cleaving sword. Saint-tier battle skill. Swing beyond samsara. Saint-tier battle skill. Divine fist of the 6th paths. With 3 bellows, the saint rulers simultaneously cast their battle skills after their long charge up. The first person lifted his sword over his head and swung out in the air. They produced a blinding sword chi that shot toward the white tiger with an unstoppable force. The curved blade in the second person's hand followed an extremely profound trajectory. A vague ripple immediately appeared, and it quickly spread toward the white tiger. Wherever it passed, space would shake violently and become blurry. Although it did not really seem like anything, it possessed terrifying might. A layer of extremely dense energy coated the third person's fist. The fist seemed to move slowly, but it was flung out with exceedingly great speed. His entire right hand disappeared, as he punched out. It was like it had completely fused with the surrounding space and entered another dimension. However, in the next moment, 6 huge fists, completely condensed from energy, appeared above the white tiger's head. They all spun and revolved in a circle with one another, as each fist radiated with a terrifying aura. The paws of the white tiger swiped faster and faster. Slowly, it drew an extremely complicated image in the air. It was blurry, but it radiated with a profound aura. Each line and image seemed to contain the laws of the world. This was a defensive technique that originated from the white tiger's inherited memories. This was its first time it had used it. As soon as the formation appeared, it expanded before the white tiger. Boom! The heaven-cleaving sword struck the formation viciously and caused it to violently shake. The formation began to flicker, and terrifying energy ripples rammed into the surrounding walls, producing pattering sounds. The sword chi became locked in a stalemate with the formation in mid-air. The energy of both the formation and the sword chi quickly began to leak away, but it failed to break through the formation before completely dispersing. The defensive formation also darkened after it blocked the battle skill equivalent to a Saint King's attack. Then, its lines and images began to blur. Some lines had even been severed. When the giant sword chi vanished, a wave of faint spatial ripples collided viciously against the formation of the white tiger as well. At the same time, one of the 6 revolving fists fell from above the white tiger, as it directly targeted the white tiger's head. Roar! The white tiger shook its head and directly tossed the scepter in its mouth in Yu Yu's direction. Afterward, it produced an earth-shaking roar at the sky. A visible sound wave emerged from its mouth and spread upward to meet with the 6 fists. The defensive formation in front of the white tiger was no longer as powerful as before. After the second Saint Tier battle skill struck it, it only lasted for a short while before shattering lowly. The odd ripples surged toward the huge white tiger like a wave of water, passing through the white tiger's body. The white tiger trembled slightly and a faint bloody mark had already appeared below its neck. Bright blood immediately began to pour from its body, dyeing its white fur red. Terrifying energy ripples began to spread from above, as the white tiger's roar destroyed the first fist of the 6. However, the second and third fist began to fall closely after one another soon afterward. They separately targeted the white tiger's head and back. Both of them moved extremely quickly. The wings on the tiger's back rose up high, as they blocked the fist that targeted its back. Its front paws clawed in a flurry, as it forcefully received the punch that targeted its head. With a boom, the 2 punches smashed the white tiger to the ground. The attack had injured its wings, as the snow-white feathers became red. Even its front paws became bloody. Even as the winged tiger god with extremely great battle prowess, the white tiger struggled to remain unscathed when it faced 3 Saint Tier battle skills at the same time. After all, it had not reached the peak of Class 7 yet. Looking at the scepter that flew over, a gleam of light flashed through Xueqi's eyes. He had always remained by Yu Yu's side, as he protected her. He immediately leaped up to catch the scepter, before returning to Yu Yu's side. He first examined it curiously, before extending his hand to give it to Yu Yu without any hesitation. Currently, Yu Yu had focused all her attention on the white tiger. She did not even glance at the scepter that had attracted countless people. She began to worry even more after she saw that the Saint rulers had injured the white tiger injured. She called out anxiously, "Xiao Bai is injured. Artifact spirit, quickly go save Xiao Bai." "Don't worry, mistress. The winged tiger god won't be in much danger. It has experienced far too little battles as it grew up as well, so this is a rare opportunity for it." The artifact spirit's voice appeared in Yu Yu's head. "Someone has taken the scepter." A person cried out. Everyone immediately moved their attention from the white tiger to Xueqi, who now held the scepter. They no longer bothered to watch the fascinating battle going on with the white tiger anymore. Instead, they all charged at Xueqi. Xueqi's expression drastically changed. Although he was a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler, he was nowhere near as strong as the winged tiger god. How could he handle so many opponents, especially when there were quite a few people who were also at the 9th heavenly layer like him? The last 3 giant fists also switched their targets. They no longer attacked the white tiger, now smashing threateningly towards Xueqi's group. "Grab the scepter and enter the artifact space." Xueqi called out in a panic. Yu Yu also understood the situation now. She immediately took the scepter from Xueqi's hands and wanted to hide in the artifact space. However, she waited for quite a long time, but she remained where she was. Kara Liwei, who was beside her, had instead disappeared. She had already entered the artifact space. "Oh no, mistress. If you're holding that scepter, you can't enter the space." The scepter is resisting, the artifact spirit said sternly in Yu Yu's head. But at this moment, the three remaining fists had already approached Yu Yu and Xie Wang. One of them smashed towards Xie Wang, while the other two completely locked onto Yu Yu, who held the scepter. Chapter 1050. Fairy Hao Yu's sudden appearance. 1. As the fists from the Saint Tier battle skills switched targets, the pressure from the surroundings also collapsed viciously on Xie Wang and Yu Yu's bodies. Xie Wang became extremely stern. It was a Saint Tier battle skill after all, and every fist would be at the level of Saint King's. It would be extremely difficult for him to block them with his strength at the 9th heavenly layer. Arg! Xie Wang roared at the sky. Churning blue light wildly flooded out of his body, before condensing on his finger and shooting toward the fists. A thumb-sized force shot through space as it radiated with blue light, shooting toward the fists with an aura of destruction. This was a powerful attack that Xie Wang had comprehended from the cultivation method of the Octaterra Emperor. Although it was not on the level of Saint Tier battle skills, it was as powerful as a pseudo-Saint Tier battle skill. Locked on by two fists, the pressure Yu Yu experienced was even greater. She could not withstand it at all with her strength that was below Earth Saint Master, so she immediately paled. Traces of blood began to pour from her mouth. Before the attack had even struck her, just the mere pressure was terrifying enough to injure her. With a loud boom, Xie Wang's attack landed on the fist that flew toward him. The attack was not on the level of Saint Tier battle skills, so it dispersed as soon as they came in contact. The fist continued on toward Xie Wang without any reduction in speed, though its force had decreased by quite a bit. Bang! The weakened fist viciously struck Xie Wang's body. He was thrown back like a sandbag as blood sprayed wildly from his mouth. A dazzling golden light appeared above Yu Yu's head. The saint artifact that always floated above her suddenly expanded, becoming a 30-meter-tall golden tower, which blocked the area in front of her in a short moment. It helped Yu Yu resist the attacks. Boom! Boom! Both of the fists landed on the saint artifact with two violent booms. They did not even shake the saint artifact. Its toughness was not something that could be overcome by Saint Tier battle skills. Even though Yu Yu was protected by the Saint Tier battle skill, it was not enough to put a stop to everyone's desire for the scepter. Several dozen saint rulers had already begun to threateningly charge toward her from all directions. On any other day, they probably would not dare to harm Yu Yu due to their fear of Jian Chen. But before the great enticement present, many of them had already forgotten about living and dying. Mistress, quickly throw the scepter away and enter the artifact space. That's the only way I can ensure that you stay completely safe. The artifact spirit's voice rang through Yu Yu's head. Although the artifact spirit was a saint emperor in the artifact space, it was innately restricted, so its abilities were greatly limited. The power it could use outside was extremely weak, so protecting her outside from enemies coming in all directions was extremely difficult. Yu Yu looked at the scepter hesitantly as a sliver of unwillingness appeared in her eyes. She did not covet the scepter. It was just that the way to save Jian Chen might lie with the scepter. Mistress, give up on the scepter first and enter the artifact space. Don't worry about the Divine Hall. Rue Jin still has his most powerful card up his sleeve, the artifact spirit called out anxiously. With that, Yu Yu finally made up her mind. She grit her teeth and began swinging her hand. She was about to throw away the scepter. If you throw away the moon god's scepter, you will never be able to save the person you want to save. Consider it. At this moment, a woman's pleasant voice rang through Yu Yu's head. The sudden appearance of the voice surprised Yu Yu, which caused her to immediately tighten her grasp on the scepter. She clutched it tightly and looked around in surprise, as if she wanting to find who the speaker was. You have not thrown away the moon god's scepter. You have made a choice. Don't worry, you'll be fine. The same voice rang in Yu Yu's head. It was extremely obscure, and only Yu Yu could hear it. However, she could not tell where it came from. Suddenly, the scepter in Yu Yu's hand exploded with bright light. An extremely terrifying energy erupted from the scepter, sweeping into the surroundings in the form of a storm. It flung all the saint rulers that charged toward her afar. Even the saint artifact floating above her head was unable to avoid it. It too was knocked far away by the powerful force. The energy from the scepter did not distinguish between enemies and friends. Other than Yu Yu, everyone, including the White Tiger, Xie Wang, and the saint artifact, were flung far away. In the blink of an eye, everyone had disappeared within a radius of several hundred meters from Yu Yu. She seemed like the only one present as bright moonlight surrounded her. Yu watched everything unfold in a dumbstruck fashion. She just struggled to believe that such a powerful energy had erupted from the very peaceful scepter. It filled her with disbelief. Before she could return to her senses, she suddenly felt her body tighten up. She had been surrounded by a mysterious force and brought into the air. She quickly flew toward the throne at the very back of the hall. Quick, stop her. Once she obtains the divine hall, we will have no more chances left, a saint ruler cried out in a panic after being knocked far away. Afterward, he immediately climbed up, shooting after Yu as fast as he could. He wanted to stop Yu from approaching the throne. All the other saint rulers paid no heed to their injured either. All of them wanted to take the divine hall for themselves, so none of them wanted to allow Yu to take what they drooled over. They all took part in encircling and stopping Yu. A terrifying ripple of residual energy spread out and all the saint rulers struck out as hard as they could. Various powerful attacks flew in from all directions, all targeting Yu. Yu had been completely coated in dense moonlight by the scepter. When the saint rulers' attacks landed on that layer of light, they all collapsed by themselves, unable to harm Yu since she was surrounded by moonlight. Under the protection of the moonlight, Yu arrived near the throne without any obstruction despite being targeted by so many densely packed attacks. Afterward, she just landed on top of it with the scepter in hand. As soon as she sat down, the space surrounding the throne began to violently twist. Everything blurred, obscuring everyone's vision. When it returned back to normal, Yu had already disappeared from the throne. Chapter 1051. Fairy Hao Yu's sudden appearance. 2. Where is she? How'd she vanish? Everyone exclaimed in surprise when they saw the empty throne. They all became momentarily stunned. Suddenly, one of the saint rulers who had cast a saint tier battle skill earlier seemed to think of something. A gleam of light flashed across his eyes, and he immediately flew to the throne. A white blur flashed past as soon as he approached the throne. The bloodied, white tiger had suddenly appeared before him. It opened its mouth and spat out a fist-sized ball of energy. Bang! With a muffled sound, the ball of energy exploded on the person's chest. The ball turned his chest into a bloody mess, causing him to immediately fly back as he vomited blood. Many of the people present saw what the saint ruler tried to do. With a slight thought, quite a few of them saw through his intentions. They all began to leap toward the throne without any hesitation in attempt to sit on it. Roar! The white tiger produced a roar to the sky, guarding the throne from everyone who tried to approach it. Although it was heavily injured, its might did not decrease at all. Vaguely, its presence even seemed more powerful than before. However, there were just too many saint rulers who charged at the throne. There were even quite a few heaven saint masters between them who wanted to try their luck, so it was impossible for the white tiger to block everyone just by itself. 3 saint rulers had already made their way past the white tiger and arrived before the throne, elbowing their way onto the throne all at the same time. The throne levitated 10 meters in the sky as it shined with a faint layer of moonlight force. It was much greater than the dragon thrones used by emperors. It seemed like a bed. It was large enough for 4 or 5 people to sit on at the same time. As the 3 saint rulers sat on the throne at the same time, joy immediately burst forth inside them. However, before they could celebrate, their expressions suddenly changed. In that short moment, all of their auras vanished, and they became extremely pale and haggard. Afterward, they fell off the throne, landing heavily on the ground. They probably could not get up anymore. Many people witnessed what happened to the 3 of them. The saint rulers who were just about to plunk their bottoms on the throne immediately halted as they stared at the 3 unmoving people on the ground in surprise. Oh no, the throne is weird. You can't sit on it. The saint force in all 3 of them has been completely sucked away by the throne, a saint ruler said in fear. Immediately, everyone around the throne stopped moving. They stopped in the surroundings as they gazed at the throne in shock and suspicion. No one dared to sit down on the throne now. In the blink of an eye, the hall fell silent from the very intense battles from before. The bloody white tiger also stopped attacking, staring fixedly at the throne. The saint artifact returned to its size of a fist and flew over. It stopped above the white tiger's head and slowly rotated. Now that Yu had vanished from the hall, the saint artifact's target to protect switched to the white tiger. All of you go! Leave the bright moon divine hall. At this moment, an obscure voice sounded through the hall. With it, a white-clothed woman suddenly appeared on the empty throne. She was illusory and not tangible, though her beauty was on par with a goddess. Why, you're Fairy How You. All the people changed in expression when they saw the illusory woman. Disbelief flooded their faces. The woman seemed exactly the same as the sculpture they had seen earlier in the Divine Hall. Fairy How You sat on the throne in a leisurely manner. Her expression was cold, like an iceberg that would not melt even after several millennia. It made people feel like she was unapproachable, and she seemed to look down on everyone within the hall. Her cold eyes only stopped on the white tiger for a split second. Fairy How You, why you're actually still alive. Fairy How You's actually still alive. All the saint rulers in the hall began to murmur. They became extremely emotional. Fairy How You was a supreme expert several tens of thousand years ago. She was known as the strongest saint emperor, and the strength she possessed was at a terrifying level. Yet now she, who was supposed to be dead, was actually still alive. It was a stirring and unexpected piece of news. Many saint rulers had already dropped to their knees within the hall. They bowed courteously to the woman. Some of them even cried out that they wanted to take her to take them in as disciples. Fairy How You furrowed her brows as a sliver of impatience appeared on her face. She coldly said, "All of you get out. From now on, the Divine Hall forbids the entry of all people." Fairy How You waved her hand and a ball of powerful moonlight force began to radiate from the throne. It sent everyone there to the first floor. In the blink of an eye, the top floor of the Divine Hall became empty. Everyone was gone, and soon afterwards, Fairy How You disappeared from the throne as well. Yu stood in confusion as she curiously looked around the completely sealed room. She mumbled, "Weird. How did I get here, and what is this place?" "Your name is Yu?" Suddenly, a cold voice rang out from behind her. Yu jumped in fright since she was unprepared. Yu immediately turned around and saw an ethereal beauty seated on a piece of jade, staring back at her. Yu immediately became surprised when she saw the woman's appearance, because she was exactly the same as the sculpture of Fairy How You. "Why, you're Fairy How You?" Yu stared at Fairy How You in surprise as she uncontrollably cried out. "Correct. I am Fairy How You." She was extremely nonchalant. She flicked her hand at the air gently and the space began to ripple violently. It changed rapidly as the formation space where all the Saint Kings were trapped gradually appeared. This was only an image within the formation space. It was taken by Fairy How You through an ability. Jian Chen. Yu immediately cried out involuntarily the instant she saw Jian Chen. Worry filled her face. "So the person you care so much about is called Jian Chen. May I ask who he is to you?" Fairy How You stared calmly at Yu. "Jian Chen is my fiancé." "Fairy How You, I beg of you to let Jian Chen go." Yu pleaded as she looked at Jian Chen. She had originally come to gain control of the Divine Hall so she could save Jian Chen. But her intentions had vanished accordingly now that she had found out Fairy How You was still alive. Yu had no interest in the Divine Hall. Her greatest wish right now was to save Jian Chen. "Jian Chen's actually your fiancé." Fairy Yu murmured softly as light flickered through her eyes. After a period of silent thought, she said to Yu, if you want to save your fiancé, there is only one way. That is to take me as your master. Are you willing?" Chapter 1052. Yu takes a master. Yu became completely stunned when she heard that. She stared at Fairy How You blankly as disbelief flooded her face. Yu had heard about the legends of Fairy How You from other people long ago. Fairy How You was a prodigy, an unprecedented genius at cultivation. It took her just a little more than 2,000 years to reach the peak of Saint Emperor, coming only an inch away from surpassing that. Even in ancient times, there was no one who could compare to her cultivation speed. After reaching the peak of Saint Emperor, she had even flown to the distant moon all by herself. She set foot on the unfamiliar territory that people rarely ever went to, collecting valuable resources to build her Divine Hall. Her abilities were so great and her powers were so outstanding that even among all the Saint Emperors, there was rarely anyone who could match up to her. Currently, the great Fairy How You actually wanted to take her as a disciple. Great joy flooded her entire spirit in that instance, making it difficult for her to return to her senses in a short amount of time. Taking a Saint Emperor as a master was a glorious matter, something worthy of being proud. Even with the entire continent in perspective, This was something that many people would not even consider. Yu had never thought that she, someone who was far from being a prodigy, would actually be asked to become a disciple of a saint emperor. Fairy Hao Yu remained calm throughout. She showed no emotions as she asked once more. Yu, are you willing to take me as your master? Yu finally calmed down. She forcefully suppressed her churning emotions and asked calmly, Fairy Hao Yu, I understand myself that my talent is nowhere near a prodigy's level, so may I ask why Fairy Hao Yu has chosen me to become your disciple? Won't my future accomplishments sully your name? You are correct. Your talent is at most 1 in 10,000, nowhere close to a genius talent. However, do you know how wondrous the method I cultivate is? It was the cultivation method that my great father, the moon god, used several tens of thousand years of effort to create specifically for me. It takes from the fortunes of nature. It's so wondrous that even if it's cultivated by people with ordinary talent, they will have quite the future. Also, there's the divine hall that I worked so hard to create all those years ago. I've sealed moon essence into it. I only need to use a portion of it to modify your body using a secret technique and have you undergo a rebirth, so that your body becomes set for cultivation, Fairy Hao Yu guaranteed. What? Your cultivation method was created by your father after several tens of thousand years? I've only heard that saint emperors have a lifespan of 10,000 years. Is your father a supreme expert who surpassed saint emperor? Yu stared at Fairy Hao Yu in surprise. A sliver of disdain flashed through Fair Hao Yu's eyes when she heard about surpassing a saint emperor. She said, the origin realm's nothing. If the origin energy in this world wasn't sealed on the distant edge of outer space, I would have reached the origin realm long ago. As for my father, you will understand after you become my disciple. Yu immediately dropped to her knees and said, I am indebted to Fairy Hao Yu's kindness. I, Yu, am willing to become your disciple. Disciple greets master. Yu bowed her head 9 times to Fairy Hao Yu. Fairy Hao Yu finally showed a slight smile on her illusory face. She said, my obedient disciple, get up quickly. You are my first disciple. With that, an invisible force lifted Yu up. Afterward, Fairy Hao Yu continued, the moon god's scepter in your hands was a scepter I made after collecting materials according to the design of my father's scepter. Now, your master no longer needs it. I've sealed a portion of moonlight force into the scepter, so carry it with you in the future. It can protect you. Yu examined the scepter. It was made out of some unknown crystal and was as light as a feather. She could not feel any weight at all. The entire scepter was clouded by a faint layer of moonlight force, shining with a hazy glow. Vaguely, she could see a simple pattern on the scepter. Master, disciple has some questions. Could everyone who obtained the scepter arrive here and be taken as a disciple of master? Yu asked. Fairy Hao Yu proudly smiled and said, there's no one in the world who has the right to become my disciple, and I had no intentions of taking one before. When the divine hall suddenly appeared, I had my own intentions. The scepter is useless to those who would have gotten a hold of it. They can't take it out of the hall anyway, but I changed my mind later on due to some reasons, which is why I made an exception to take you as my disciple. Because of Jian Chen? Yu probed. She recognized the reason why Fairy Hao Yu had taken her in as a disciple long ago. It was because of Jian Chen. All right, don't ask any more, my dear disciple. All you need to understand is that Master has no ill intentions toward you. Master's original disciple and only exists in the form of a soul now. This is why Master will be extremely limited in her abilities to assist you when you come across dangers in the future. However, once you cultivate my method, I will give you control of the Divine Hall. The Divine Hall is something I was proud of when I made it all those years ago, so it's extraordinarily tough. There's also layers upon layers of formations in the Divine Hall, so as long as you have it protecting you, even experts in the origin realm will be kept busy for a while. The name of the cultivation method is the Mirror of the Moon God. If it is practiced with a special constitution, the rate will be greatly increased. Allow Master to assist you in rebirthing with the moon essence sealed within the Divine Hall. I'll pass the cultivation method on to you after that. Then you can control the Divine Hall and save the person you want to save. Although Fairy Yu was in the form of a soul, she still possessed supreme control over the Divine Hall. With a single thought, extremely dense moon essence gathered from the surroundings, slowly approaching Yu in the form of the light of a rainbow. Afterward, all of it entered her body, improving her talent by modifying her constitution. As she watched Yu be coated by the thick layer of moon essence, Fairy Hao Yu suddenly seemed to fall into a trance. She thought, "Father, your daughter's not dead. Very soon, I'll be able to return to your side, and then I will tell you about Nan Potion's scheme. Nan Potion has wild ambitions. He wants to take your position as the leader of the Moon God Hall. Now that so many years have passed, I wonder if you're fine?" Has the Moon God Hall fallen into Nan Potion's hands? As she thought, her illusory face suddenly became filled with deep worry. At the same moment, the huge formation still took up the same amount space on the first floor of the Divine Hall just like before, filling up a large portion of the hall where the sculpture was. A large group of people regretfully stood in the region close to where the formation lay. A few of them were even dejected, as if their souls had disappeared. These people had all been sent down from the top floor by the Divine Hall's power. Now all of them understood that the Divine Hall was most likely taken by Yu, who had disappeared from the throne with the scepter in her hand, which was why all of them were filled with deep regret and dejection. Xie Wang and the White Tiger stood together. The fist-sized saint artifact floated over the White Tiger's head as it slowly spun. Currently, both of them were covered in blood, in horrible shape. Their injuries were quite deep. "I never thought that Fairy Hao Yu would still be alive. Yu's definitely been taken away by Fairy Hao Yu. She should be fine, right? Though what happens next isn't something we can control or interfere with," Xie Wang said gruffly. He was rather helpless. The White Tiger remained as awe-inspiring as before, standing with its head up high. It stared fixedly at the formation space up ahead as worry filled its eyes. No one knew if Jian Chen could make it out of the formation space now that Yu's situation was unknown. Chapter 1053. New Master of the Divine Hall, 1. Sigh. I never thought that we'd expend so much energy while fighting over the scepter only for it to fall into the hands of a girl who's not even an Earth Saint Master. This is a huge joke. Among the crowd, a bloodied, paled-faced old man made a self-depreciating statement. He was filled with heavy dejection, and vaguely, there seemed to be slivers of envy. He was envious of Yu. There's no point in continuing to stay in this divine hall. Whatever. If we have to watch that girl come out beaming with smiles while we're filled with regret, we might as well leave now, just in case we feel even more miserable when that moment comes. The old man stared at the ceiling of the divine hall in a daze as he mumbled to himself. He turned around and left as he did all that, leaving the divine hall in dejection. Humph, isn't this all because of the winged tiger god? If it weren't for the winged tiger god getting in our way, the scepter would have entered our hands long ago. How could it be taken by a weak girl? You still don't understand? The winged tiger god tried extremely hard to stop us for the lady to obtain the scepter. Sigh, too bad she's Jian Chen's fiancé. With Jian Chen as her great supporter, even the extremely prideful winged tiger god ended up helping her out. Sigh, my daughter's roughly the same as that girl. She's also an alluring beauty, a woman of rare appearance. If my daughter could foster a relationship with Jian Chen, how good would that be? A hubbub of discussion resonated in the surroundings. Many people regretfully sighed. They were unwilling to accept this outcome, because they had come across no other treasures other than the scepter on their journey within the divine hall. They had worked hard for so long, yet in the end, they had obtained nothing. How could the people be satisfied with nothing? Quite a few people looked at the winged tiger god with undisguised hatred and resentment. All of them were extremely confident in themselves and filled with confidence in their strength. All of them believed that if it were not for the winged tiger god, the scepter would have been theirs long ago. Although many people in the crowd held deep hatred for the winged tiger god, none of them dared to do anything to it. All of them had gained a deep understanding of the winged tiger god's supreme battle prowess. It had only been somewhat heavily injured when it was facing against many saint rulers and 3 saint-tier battle skills. Killing it would be even more difficult. None of them knew if the winged tiger god was hiding any other abilities or secret techniques. All the people within the divine hall were sent to the same place by the power of the divine hall, so in that instance, the number of people on the first floor suddenly exploded. It became densely packed, almost filling up all the remaining space of the divine hall. The people who were still in the mazes before and had yet to reach the final floor learned about what had happened. They were filled with despair and regret. They all left the divine hall in low spirits after a short while. People constantly left the divine hall, causing the number of people to rapidly fall. In the end, only around 100 people remained, including the winged tiger god and Xie Wang. All of them stared at the formation where the Saint Kings were trapped in worry. The illusory fairy Hao Yu had already left where she sat before in the sealed room. She left the piece of jade for Yu Yu. Currently, Yu Yu lay on the piece of jade and was enveloped by a thick layer of moon essence. With her eyes closed, the dense moonlight force around her constantly seeped into her body, rapidly improving her body. Fairy Hao Yu stared at Yu Yu in mixed emotions as the moon essence enveloped her. She thought, the mirror of the moon god was specifically created by my father for me. The cultivation method is extremely profound in that it takes from nature itself. My father once told me that I was the only person who could cultivate with it. Any other person who uses it will become eternally doomed. I wonder if passing this cultivation method on to Yu Yu was the right decision. Though, father also once told me that the people who try to use this cultivation method will face the drawbacks once they break through the origin realm and attain godhood. Meanwhile, it will be extremely difficult for Yu Yu to reach Saint Emperor within her life. Even with the support of heavenly resources, her limit will only be Saint King at most. If she cultivates the mirror of the moon god right now and has her body modified by the moon essence, she will be able to reach Saint Emperor in the very least. If origin energy was still present, she might even be able to reach the origin realm. She may never attain godhood from today on, but at least she can live much longer. In that case, I won't really be harming her. It had already been half a month since the Divine Hall had appeared, and it had become extremely crowded outside the Divine Hall. The air was filled with densely packed figures everywhere, ranging from Heaven Saint Masters to Saint Kings. Several great elders had come from the Protector clans, and even the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, had personally come. The ancestors of many ancient clans had come as well, resulting in the gathering of many Saint Kings. All of them stared at the Divine Hall with furrowed brows. The people who had just left the Divine Hall brought out the latest news with them, allowing everyone to learn that Fairy Hao Yu was still alive and that her figure remained in the Divine Hall. At the same time, they learned how an extremely weak woman had obtained the scepter and was sent to some unknown place by the throne of the Divine Hall. Chapter 1054. New Master of the Divine Hall. 2. What's happening? Why can't I feel the suction force? Has it stopped working on me after it's realized that it can't suck away my chaotic force? Or has something else happened in the Divine Hall? Jianchen thought. So many days have already passed. I wonder how Yu Yu and the others are right now. Have they successfully gained control over the Divine Hall? At the same time, a woman in blue robes currently sat within a sealed room as she cultivated 1,000 meters below the surface of the earth at the Huanggu clan. She was extremely pretty, possessing beauty that could outshine the moon and few could rival. She could enchant countless men. A faint layer of water-blue light shone in the woman's surroundings as extremely pure. Water-attributed saint force pulsed from her body. It caused the air in the room to become moist, while droplets of water hung from the surrounding walls. The woman was Huang Luan, currently trapped here by the ancestor of the Huanggu clan and forced to cultivate the scripture of the aquatic sunflower. She had already been trapped here for many years. During that time, she had always been imprisoned in that room, never to be able to leave it. She was completely cut off from the world, only able to cultivate and then cultivate some more. She possessed the water spirit's body, while the scripture of the aquatic sunflower was a high-tiered cultivation method extremely suitable for people with saint force of the water attribute. As a result, the rate at which her strength increased could be described as extremely great during the years where she worked hard in the method, reaching the 6th cycle of Heaven Saint Master, now only an inch away from Saint Ruler. Although her speed was far from Jian Chen or Tai Ta's, it was equivalent to a prodigy that would only appear once every 10,000 years on the Tian Yuan continent. After several years, Huang Luan's temperament had undergone a great change from before as well. The most evident part was that her pride and arrogance from before were now gone. She was becoming stronger-willed, even more mature and silent. Suddenly, the water-blue light around Huang Luan vanished. She slowly opened her eyes and within them hid a sliver of deep hatred. The scripture of the aquatic sunflower really is wondrous. After these years of cultivating with it, most of the poison left behind by that old bastard has been purged. There's only a small residue left, which can't affect me. If I continue to work hard on cultivation, I'll immediately break through that old bastard's barrier once I reach Saint Ruler. I'll charge out and fight him to death. Afterward, the clan should hear about the news very soon, so they'll definitely come help save great-grandfather. Huang Luan calculated inside as determination flooded her face. After being trapped for so many years, she had seen through and understood a lot of things. She knew that the Huanggu clan wanted something from her since they were holding Huang Tianba as hostage, imprisoning her there and forcing her to cultivate. As a result, she had already made up her mind about the fact that she would die. The only reason why she focused on cultivation now was so that she could burst out of the room and spread the news, so that her great-grandfather could be saved. Suddenly, a muffled rumble rang out. The door slowly opened and a simply dressed old man slowly walked in. He was the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. "My dear Luaner, why haven't you been cultivating? You must work hard on cultivation and reach Saint Ruler as soon as possible. Once you reach Saint Ruler, I'll let your great-grandfather go." The ancestor smiled at Huang Luan. However, it seemed rather sinister in the dimly lit room. "How is my great-grandfather right now?" Huang Luan suppressed her intense hatred inside and asked in a composed fashion. She was not an opponent of the ancestor right now. "Don't worry. Your great-grandfather is fantastic right now. I haven't mistreated him one bit at all." The Huanggu clan ancestor smiled as he observed Huang Luan. He sighed inside. The water spirit's body sure can cultivate at an unbelievable speed once it finds a suitable cultivation method. "I never thought that this girl would reach 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master so soon." The ancestor slowly made his way to Huang Luan's side. He bit his index finger and squeezed out a droplet of blood. It hung in the air, and then he used it to draw an image with his index finger. "What are you trying to do?" Huang Luan's face changed slightly when she saw what the old man was doing. She felt an ill omen, and immediately began to back off cautiously. A while later, a complicated and indecipherable inscription was drawn by the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. It glowed with a demonic red light and seemed to be filled with malevolence. The old man looked at Huang Luan and sniggered. "My dear disciple, don't worry. Your master's beloved disciple after all. Master would never harm you. Come to your master's side." The old man slowly drew closer and closer to Huang Luan. The room was not big at all, so Huang Luan hit a wall very soon. Although the door was wide open, a barrier was present outside, so she could not flee at all. Even though she did not have an escape route, she did not show any fear at all. She knew that any attempt of resistance against the Huanggu clan ancestor, who had reached Saint Ruler many years ago, was futile. After some thought, she closed her eyes and began to silently accept this situation. The old man arrived before Huang Luan and sinisterly smiled. He slowly guided the inscription at the tip of his finger to the region between Huang Luan's eyebrows. As soon as the blood-red imprint came in contact with her skin, it disappeared into her head. Huang Luan suddenly began to show signs of pain, and she moaned in uncontrollable agony. She felt her head ache with extreme pain, as if her soul was being ripped apart. The old man's smile became even more sinister after the formation had successfully entered Huang Luan's head. A long while later, the pain in her head finally began to slowly recede. She stared at the old man with a rather pale face and coldly asked, "What was that before?" "What did you do to me?" "This is called the blood servant's imprint. I learned it recently from an ancient scripture. The blood servant's imprint won't cause you any harm. All it does is connect our fate. If I die, you die too." The ancestor slowly explained as he sighed a breath of relief inside. "Now it'll be easy. I've planted the imprint in the girl, so I'll be safe even if Jian Chen or the 10 protector clans come knocking on the door. I hope this girl can reach Saint Ruler a little after. Once she reaches Saint Ruler, the potential of the water spirit's body will be completely activated as well. At that time, if I absorb all her hidden potential and strength as a human cauldron, I'll reach Saint King immediately. I might even be able to reach Saint Emperor in the future." Chapter 1055, New Master of the Divine Hall, 3. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan left, and the heavy door slowly slammed shut. Only Huang Luan was left in the dim room. Huang Luan did not show any panic or fear even though she was now bound by the blood servant's imprint. She was extremely calm. She had already accepted her death long ago, so she did not care at all that her life was in someone else's hands. Huang Luan returned to the center of the room and sat down. She was dazed as memories filled her eyes. She mumbled, "Jian Chen, I wonder where you are. How have you been in these years? Have you ever thought about me or missed me?" "Jian Chen, Every moment when we were together as well as every little matter that occurred between us will be deeply embedded in my head. I will never forget you. All that can be blamed is fate. I cannot be with you forever. In the future, we may never meet again. I never thought that my last time seeing you was when we separated all those years ago. Huang Luan suddenly became sorrowful. 2 clear streaks of tears flowed uncontrollably down her cheeks. They landed on the cold floor and splashed apart. Deep sorrow filled the room. The fallen tears were like Huang Luan's heart, completely shattered and split into countless pieces. In the blink of an eye, another half a month passed. All the Saint Kings from the Protector clans and Ancient clans, as well as the Saint Rulers, stood scattered in the air around the Divine Hall. During that half a month, no one had left. They remained where they were, while the people of the Protector clans and Mercenary City all tried to think of ways to save their people trapped inside. The remaining Saint Rulers all remained there to watch it all unfold, and also to find out who the Divine Hall would belong to in the end. During that time, the people from the Protector clans used countless methods and had attempted countless times, but it all resulted in failure. The Divine Hall's toughness was incomparable to other ordinary Divine Halls. They could not open the Divine Hall even when all of them tried as hard as they could. They even struggled to leave a mark on it. So many days have passed already and they still haven't come out. There's no news of you either. I wonder what the situation is like inside. If it keeps dragging out, it will be detrimental to the people trapped inside, growled a great elder from the Shenshao sect. He was extremely stern. We've called from outside for so many days, and even attacked the Divine Hall, but the Divine Hall does not respond at all. All it does is float here and absorb moonlight force. I think Fairy Hao Yu's dead. If this continues, the people inside will definitely face life-threatening danger. This is why I would say that why don't we, the 10 clans, use our clan treasures, the Emperor armaments, and smash through the entrance of the Divine Hall in one stroke. Her soul is actually still alive. The Saint Kings possessed great senses, much greater senses than Saint Rulers. They could tell that it was Fairy Hao Yu's soul with a single glance, but even though that was the case, it still shocked them all. Saint Emperors had a lifespace of 10,000 years. Once that time was up, their bodies would begin to fall apart and their souls would disperse. It was impossible for them to live much longer after those 10,000 years, yet Fairy Hao Yu was someone who had lived several tens of thousand years ago, and her soul actually still remained. It was unheard of to them. 2 seconds have passed. You have 3 left, Fairy Hao Yu said as she stared coldly at the Saint Kings. All of the people no longer bothered with her matters with that. They did not doubt her abilities to trap them for all of eternity. After all, the formation just before was more than enough evidence. They immediately charged out as fast as they could, but as they had all lost their powers, they could not fly. They ran like ordinary people. When they saw how He Yu and Hong Lian had both lost all their power, Rui Jin's face immediately changed. I never thought that your strengths would fall to such a level. Looks like the danger of the Divine Hall far exceeded anything I expected. You two better return to the artifact space first and recover. Afterward, He Yu and Hong Lian both entered the artifact space to recover their depleted energy. Brother Jian Chen, my energy is depleted, so it's just too inconvenient for me to return. I was wondering if I could spend a few days in the artifact space to recover, Carolot said to Jian Chen. Of course. Jian Chen agreed without any hesitation. He knew quite well that the Kara clan had many enemies. It would be difficult to even run away if Carolot faced them in his current situation. Kazda Jianxiong also requested out of his own accord to enter the artifact space to recover his strength after Carolot had been taken away. In the end, he was sent into the artifact space as well. Kazda Jianxiong was the same as Carolot. They had both lost their powers and dared not to return hastily. Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao supported the great elder who had entered with them and arrived before Jian Chen. He asked for Jian Chen's well-being out of concern before hurriedly leaving with the great elder. A few other saint rulers from the ancient clans all went up to support their ancestors, leaving the Divine Hall as well. A portion of them immediately began to return to their clans, while others stayed behind. They wanted to see who the Divine Hall would belong to in the end. Among the 10 protector clans, the Yuan sect, the Chongyang clan, and the Pure Heart Pavilion chose to leave. The 7 other protector clans chose to stay behind, while the people from Mercenary City stayed behind as well. Many of them still cared about the divine hall very much. Jian Chen had already dismissed all his thoughts regarding the divine hall. He said to Rue Jin, "Is Yu fine, Senior Rue Jin?" Rue Jin shook his head in response. Yu still hasn't come out." "What? Yu hasn't left the divine hall?" Jian Chen became surprised with that and immediately began to worry. A powerful ripple of energy appeared from behind him at this moment. He immediately turned around to look when he sensed the abnormality. He found that the divine hall had stopped absorbing moonlight force and was rapidly shrinking, becoming the size of a fist in just a few mere seconds. It was becoming a small white but exquisitely crafted divine hall. Without the obstruction of the divine hall, a purple-dressed, elegant woman appeared before everyone. "You were?" Jian Chen could not help but call out in joy when he saw the person, as it was Yu Yu. Yu gestured with her hand, and the divine hall immediately flew obediently into her hand. It enveloped her entire body with hazy moonlight force, allowing her to become resistant to the unique environment of outer space. Chapter 1057. Infant Yu roughly explained her encounter in the divine hall to Jian Chen, so Jian Chen gained an understanding as well. He felt happy for Yu's fortuitous encounter. Yu was only a Heaven Saint Master now, but there were extremely few people who could become Heaven Saint Masters at her age, even with the entire Tianyuan continent in perspective. Yu's cultivation talent had also undergone an overwhelming change, so her speed at cultivation greatly increased. Many of the experts from ancient and hermit clans who stayed behind went up to the two of them to congratulate them. They smiled amicably and congratulations constantly rang out. Their attempts to get on Jian Chen's good side were obvious, and even two experts from protector clans had gone up to congratulate them, wanting to pull Jian Chen to their side vaguely enough. Although the 10 protector clans were envious of the winged tiger god that followed Jian Chen and wanted to take it for themselves, Jian Chen was no longer the weakling from before. He was strong enough where even they themselves needed to be wary and powerful enough where they dared not provoke him easily. The winged tiger god following Jian Chen had already become a matter set in stone, so they obviously had no wish of lingering on Jian Chen's bad side. Jian Chen was rather mannerly. He would thank the people who came up to congratulate him politely regardless of actually being acquaintances. Yu, on the other hand, was once a princess, so she behaved in a very refined manner as well. She thanked them with a faint smile. Now that the Bright Moon Divine Hall had a master, the disruptions caused by the Divine Hall finally came to an end. All the experts gathered in outer space dispersed with mixed emotions. Tianjian spoke a few words to Jian Chen out of courtesy before leaving immediately. Soon after that, only Jian Chen's group remained in the same place. Let's go back first, Jian Chen said to Yu, before extending his hand around Yu's thin waist. The White Tiger and Xia Wang had already entered the artifact space to heal. Yu did not stop Jian Chen. She smiled happily as she was embraced around the waist, leaning gently on Jian Chen's shoulder. The divine hall had already disappeared silently into her hand. Jian Chen left outer space with Yu and Rue Jin, returning to the Tianyuan continent. They directly descended to the air above Fragrance River. Although over a month had passed since the divine hall had appeared, its effects still lingered on all the people. Many people had stayed by the river and some people had even set up tents on the 2 riverbanks. They stared at the sky days on end, wanting to know who the divine hall ended up with in the end. Jian Chen did not tarry when he returned to the city of God. He found Quan Yu Kai and Yang Ling, bidding farewell after just a short conversation. He left with Yang Ling. Hong Lian and He Yu remained in the artifact space to recover their strength, so only Rue Jin accompanied them on the way back. He ripped open a space gate, going back to the Chongyang clan in Lore City. Tsar Vamos stood on the roof of the Tsar family estate, staring deeply in the direction where Jian Chen had disappeared off to. Kara Lot of the Kara clan and Kazda Jianxiong of the Kazda clan have both lost all their strength. They're extremely weak, and without the two of them, the Kara clan and Kazda clan are extremely fragile. How good of an opportunity. Too bad, Kai Yun. Sigh, I sure do regret the past. I sure do regret the past. Tsar Vamos was filled with regret. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu currently sat on a huge rock on the mountain of the distant 3 Saint Island. They faced the vast ocean where the sea blended with the sky, quietly playing their zither. Their abilities at the zither were nowhere near the heavenly enchantress, but they possessed an extremely great achievement nonetheless. Not only were their zither tunes graceful and able to calm people, they also possessed a natural beauty. A white-robed woman sat behind the two of them. She was the young lady of the Tianqin clan, Qin Qin. She was not playing the zither. Instead, she sat on the cliff with her eyes closed, carefully listening to the music played by Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Her zither, modeled from the zither of the demonic cry, was placed firmly on her legs. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu finally stopped playing a long while later. They slowly put their zither away and stood up, calmly staring at Qin Qin. A while later, Xiao Yu said, "Junior Qin Qin, have you sensed the existence of the heavenly melody?" Qin Qin slowly opened her eyes and a sliver of confusion flashed through. She shook her head. "Seniors, I've heard you mention this heavenly melody many times, but just what is it? We can't explain it clearly either, because it was what our master told us back then. All we know is that it's a feeling. It's an odd feeling. A feeling of tone. Only by sensing the heavenly melody can you be considered to have grasped the basics of the way of the zither," said Xiao Yu as reminiscence appeared in her eyes. "Looks like our comprehension of the way of the zither is not enough. We don't have the power to let Junior sense the heavenly melody just by ourselves. Maybe it'll only work if Master personally plays. It's a pity that Master's been in seclusion for many years already. I wonder when she'll come out," Xiao Qian said rather regretfully. Suddenly, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's eyes froze. They suddenly turned their heads to look into the distance, where the sky and sea joined as one. A streak of violet light rapidly enlarged, approaching Three Saint Island at an unbelievable speed. It was still at the horizon, yet it had arrived on the island a second later. It was only 10 meters away from Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu now. Its speed was shocking. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu grew solemn. They immediately became cautious when such a great expert suddenly visited the island, but they saw who the violet figure was very soon. They stared blankly as they became extremely shocked, calling out in unison, "Master!" The violet figure was the mistress of the island, the heavenly enchantress. In violet robes, the heavenly enchantress stood honorably and coldly. She stood with her back from Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu as her black hair fell naturally from her shoulders like a fountain. "Master, it's you. Weren't you in seclusion? Why have you suddenly appeared outside?" Xiao Qian was filled with shock. She had never sensed the heavenly enchantress leave in the past few years, always believing that she remained in seclusion. "In my seclusion, I just happened to go out for a journey. I've only just returned." "Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, has anything happened on Three Saint Island during these recent years?" The heavenly enchantress ignored the question and replied icily. Her voice was emotionless. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately understood the heavenly enchantress' explanation. Xiao Yu replied, "Master, all because of you. Three Saint Island has remained as peaceful as before. Nothing big has happened." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu walked toward the heavenly enchantress happily as they spoke. Although they were disciples of the heavenly enchantress on the surface, they were actually more like sisters. When Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu arrived by her side, they discovered that she was currently carrying an infant wrapped in a cotton cloth. They immediately became astonished. "Master, whose child is this?" Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu said together. They immediately leaned over, curiously staring at the infant. A sliver of mixed emotions appeared in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. She lowered her head to look at the sleeping infant and said, "There was war in a small kingdom on the continent. The child was lying among mountains of corpses and pools of blood. His parents both passed away, so I took pity on him and brought him back." Chapter 1058. Xiao Bao. "Oh Master, this child is so pitiful. He's lost his parents soon after being born. That's just too pitiful." The kind Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately became deeply sympathetic when they learned about the miserable life of the infant. Their gazes toward the child also underwent changes, becoming filled with love. "Master, let's let this pitiful child live on Three Saint Island in the future." Xiao Qian touched the child's cheek with a jade-like finger as she pleaded. "Yeah, Master, let's just let the child stay with us on Three Saint Mountain. The mountain's this big and there's only the four of us. An additional person would bring an additional portion of liveliness," Xiao Yu also insisted. She liked the chubby white infant in the heavenly enchantress' arms very much and felt even more sympathetic. The heavenly enchantress had already removed her veil, revealing her supreme beauty. She looked at the infant with mixed emotions and gently sighed. All right then. Since you all like this child so much, let's let him live on 3 Saint Island. Yes, fantastic. There'll be 1 extra person on 3 Saint Mountain in the future. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately cried out. They were like little girls as they behaved in such a lively manner. Master, the child still doesn't have a name. Why not give him a name? Xiao Yu suggested. Oh my, let me do that then. I'm best at giving names to children. Xiao Qian excitedly took up the right to name the child. After some thought she said, Master, looking at how cute the child is, why not call him Xiao Bao? Xiao Bao, that name sounds pretty good. It sounds quite cute, Xiao Yu said after some thought as well. The heavenly enchantress hesitated slightly before faintly nodding in the end. All right then. This child will be called Xiao Bao in the future. Master, leave Xiao Bao to the 2 of us. We will be responsible for looking after him in the future, Xiao Yu giggled, before extending her hands to carry Xiao Bao. No need, the heavenly enchantress appeared silently 10 meters away, gradually moving further away with Xiao Bao. She said, I'll look after Xiao Bao. Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, immediately go down the mountain to find some high-quality milk. You 2 will be responsible for Xiao Bao's food in the future. Yes, master. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu replied in unison, though they seemed to be dejected. Qin, you should rest for a few days. I will play the zither for you in 3 days so that you can comprehend the heavenly melody, the heavenly enchantress softly said, before completely disappearing. The heavenly enchantress sat dazed on a big rock within a secret room with Xiao Bao in her arms. Her expression was extremely complicated with some distress mixed in. Xiao Bao seemed to sense the heavenly enchantress' distress and began to make sounds. He stared at the heavenly enchantress with his large pure eyes out of curiosity as he unconsciously moved his arm. The heavenly enchantress looked at Xiao Bao and secretly sighed inside. She said, I was pregnant for 10 whole years to give birth to Xiao Bao. Meanwhile, my strength has skyrocketed at an unbelievable rate during my pregnancy, reaching the current level with the addition of the dragon's saliva. Xiao Bao, are you my blessing or curse? From then on, 1 more person joined 3 Saint Island. That person was a male infant, Xiao Bao. The Chongyang clan in Lore City was currently in joy. Jian Chen's return immediately caused it to become bustling. In the present day, Jian Chen's status in the clan was unrivaled. He was the glory of the clan, the pride of the clan. He earned the respect of everyone. All of the elderly members of the clan immediately went up to personally receive him when he returned. Their gazes toward him were filled with deep pride and admiration. These older members were all part of the upper echelon. Although they were not powerful, mostly Earth Saint Masters, they were Jian Chen's great-grandfathers if seniority was considered. In a corner of the clan, Jian Chen's second brother, Chongyang Ku, watched on with mixed emotions as everyone seemed to parade into the conference hall with Jian Chen. He was strewn between emotions and could not help but think back to every single moment he had been in contact with Jian Chen when he was young. He could still clearly remember that his youngest brother's status was nowhere near his when he was labeled as a cripple who could not use Saint Force. Yet now, the cripple had become a powerful figure that could shake up the continent with a twitch of his feet. On the other hand, even after expending a large quantity of the clan's monster cores, Chongyang Ku was still stuck at Great Saint Master. He had not even reached Earth Saint Master. Big brothers become a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion of the 10 Protector clans, while sisters become the saintess of some unknown ice god hall. Youngest brothers has become a shocking expert of the continent. He's now a Saint King. Now there's only me, Chongyang Ku, without any proud achievements. I haven't even reached Earth Saint Master. Am I useless? Chongyang Ku laughed at himself and became rather dejected. Of the 4 sons and daughters of the current patriarch, Chongyang Ba, 3 of them had already become famed figures. There was only him who remained relatively unknown even today, which greatly affected him. Jian Chen casually conversed with the seniors of his clan, before returning to his own room. Due to Jian Chen's unique status, he also received special treatment from the clan. His luxurious, palace-like residence from before had been rebuilt once more. Not only was it larger, it was even more grand and majestic. It could rival the royal palaces of kings. Jian Chen's palace-like residence had already become the symbol of the Chongyang clan. It took up an entire third of the estate. The great tower created by Changyangzu Yunxiao and Changyangzu Yeyun had been demolished long ago. Jian Chen felt rather helpless knowing the clan rebuilt his residence. He really did not have any demand for the reconstruction of his residence. He had even learned from his mother that the reconstruction was actually suggested by the ancestor of the clan, Changyangzu Yun Kong. He had even obtained the agreement of everyone, including Changyangzu Yunxiao and Changyangzu Yeyun. On that night, Jian Chen gathered in the residence with Little Fatty, Wang Yifeng, Senior N, Yun Zhang, Yang Ling, and the others. They drank together and talked about everything. Laughter echoed out constantly. Jian Chen, I've already made up my mind. Once you leave the Changyang clan, Wang Yifeng, Senior N, Yun Zhang, and I will go out to train. We'll roam the Tianyuan continent properly. Locking ourselves up and cultivating every day is like shutting ourselves from the world. It's not very helpful at all, Little Fatty drunkenly said. His resolute face had already become bright red from drinking. Jian Chen secretly nodded to that. Although Little Fatty's talent was impressive, his age was still a thing after all. He lacked legitimate experience, so roaming the Tianyuan continent would indeed be extremely beneficial to him. Dugu Feng's currently at Mercenary City, taking up the position as disciplinary elder. He's responsible for punishing the mercenaries that have done wrong. Ever since sister-in-law Yu's left with you, the management of Flame City has all fallen to Bai Lian. She's been managing the city in an orderly manner and has also raised many members of the upper echelon for management as well. Currently, the city is growing with each coming day. Together with your name, Jian Chen, many saint rulers have already been drawn over. Your great-grandfather Bai Hai's also gone with your sister Bai Lian to the city, protecting her as he watches over her cultivation. At the table, Jian Chen gained some understanding of Flame City's situation from his dear friends. He both loved and felt pity for his sister Bai Lian. He knew it had been difficult for her over the years. She must have spent quite the effort for Flame City. Chapter 1059. Disturbance at Flame City. Deep into the night, Jian Chen's lively residence finally quietened down. Little Fatty and everyone else left, and they returned to their own residences to rest. Only Jian Chen remained, with a few female servants who were cleaning up the table. Jian Chen walked outside before he gently leaped onto the roof. He laid down and stared at the pitch-black sky. His deep eyes seemed to pierce the space, as he looked at the silver-white bright moon divine hall in the distant outer space. Yu was not at the Changyang clan. Soon after she returned with him, she entered the divine hall. Then, she went to outer space to absorb the essence of the moon to cultivate. After she accepted Fairy Hao Yu as her master, Yu became extremely enthusiastic toward cultivation. She worked even harder and even more arduously. She only wanted to increase her strength as much as possible, so she could do some things for Jian Chen and share his burden. Jian Chen laid on the roof and zoned out, as he stared at the night sky. He became slightly confused as he murmured, "Why did Fairy Hao Yu take Yu as a disciple? Yu's talent is good, but that's only with a small kingdom like Jessen in perspective. It's nothing if you look at the entire continent. There are countless prodigious females on the continent, and their talent is far greater than Yu's. So, why didn't Fairy Hao Yu take someone else?" In that moment of peace, Jian Chen began to think of many things. He felt most suspicious about Fairy Hao Yu accepting Yu as her disciple. "I don't think this is as simple as it seems. Fairy Hao Yu probably has some other intentions," murmured Jian Chen as he pondered. Suddenly, Jian Chen's gaze froze. He immediately stopped talking to himself, as he saw a black figure leap up to the roof. The figure produced gentle sounds as they stepped on the tiles, slowly making their way toward Jian Chen. Jian Chen did not get up, lying on the roof as before. He cushioned his head with his arms, as he continued to stare at the night sky. The black figure arrived beside him. Then they laid down just like Jian Chen. His movements caused the tiles to creak. He said, "Brother, it's so late. Why haven't you gone to sleep?" Jian Chen turned around and looked at the figure. He smiled, "Brother, doesn't that apply to you as well? And to me, sleeping nowadays is basically wasting time." "Sai, you're right. You've already become a Saint King now. You're a peak-level expert even with the whole continent in perspective. You indeed don't need sleep to recover at your level of strength." Changyang sighed gently. A faint sorrow filled his face. "Brother, have you been well these days?" Jian Chen asked. Although Chong Yongku had once gone against him in everything he did, that happened when they were young. Jian Chen stopped bothering about it long ago, treating it as the arguments between kids. You, big brother and sister have all become great, famed people. Either a supreme expert or a prodigy peak-level sex heavily favor. Only I remain unknown. A nobody. I'm still stuck at being a great Saint Master even until now, and I don't even know when I can reach Earth Saint Master. Do you think I've been well these years? Chong Yongku sighed. He was gloomy. Jian Chen remained silent. It was true that Chong Yongku's talent was not really extraordinary. Even with the support of a great clan, he remained at Great Saint Master and improved at a rather slow rate. Chong Yongku suddenly sat up and wishfully looked at Jian Chen. He said, "Brother, you're already a supreme figure of the continent now. I know you have extremely great abilities, so can you help me? I don't want to lie in waste anymore. I don't want to become an embarrassment to big brother, sister, and you," pleaded Chong Yongku. It was very courageous of him to say such things. Jian Chen slowly sat up. "Brother, I still have some heavenly resources on me. When I go to Flame City tomorrow morning, I'll get the alchemist there to refine the resources into pills. It can modify your constitution. However, hard work is what truly determines your accomplishments, even though these items can improve your constitution." "Brother, thank you. I will definitely work hard on cultivation in the future." Emotions began to overwhelm Chong Yongku. He seemed to see a sliver of light in the darkness before him and hope for the future. On the next day, Jian Chen left Yongling at the clan, before going to Flame City with Rue Jin. Flame City was even busier than before. Mercenaries flowed unendingly in and out of the city gates, along with many merchants who had come to hire them. The Flame mercenaries had experienced a huge setback and almost collapsed, but Jian Chen was just too famous. Coupled with his position as captain, the mercenaries regrouped at an astonishing rate. Not only did they recover their peak strength in less than a month, but they also became even stronger than before. There were even several saint rulers who came to join them. The Flame mercenaries had already exceeded many hermit clans in strength now. They were no weaker than ancient clans with Jian Chen in consideration, as he had killed saint kings before. They became one of the few great mercenary groups, and their names shook the continent. The banners of the mercenaries had almost become a life-saving charm. Wherever the banners passed by, no one dared to behave in an offensive manner. This included bandits and the people from a few large clans. They all would give way on their one accord in a courteous fashion. As a result, all the escorting missions that people of the Flame mercenaries undertook proceeded smoothly. Blood would only be drawn when they came across a few ignorant magical beasts. More and more merchants became willing to recruit the Flame mercenaries as a result. Jian Chen levitated 1,000 meters in the air, as he stared down at the bustling city with a joyous smile. However, his eyes suddenly froze when he swept past the very center of the city, and his complexion became rather horrible. A 300-meter-tall stone statue stood there. It gazed into the distance like a ruler, lording over the world in an impressive manner. It was a sculpture of Jian Chen that was carved in a lifelike fashion. It seemed just like a real person. With a darkened complexion, Jian Chen ran through the air and arrived above the stone statue with just a few flashes. He directly struck it with his palm, and the entire statue shattered with a violent boom. It drifted down in the form of dust. He had personally destroyed a statue of himself. The statue was irreplaceable in the city. This was because it depicted a legend, an epic of the continent. At the same time, it depicted a supreme saint king, who was the spiritual leader of the Flame mercenaries. It was Jian Chen. The destruction of the statue immediately raised the attention of the people nearby. All of them began to seethe as soon as they witnessed the destruction of the statue of the captain they admired and worshipped the most. Killing intent and rage immediately began to surge within them, burning like roaring flames. The statue of the captain has been destroyed. Someone has destroyed the captain's statue. Which bastard did this? I'll personally carve you up for destroying the statue of our captain. How dare they destroy the statue of our captain? I'll chop whoever did it into 1,000,000 pieces. The eyes of each and every person became bloodshot, as they gnashed their teeth. Intense rage began to burn within their eyes. The destruction of Jian Chen's statue was like the murder of their parents. It was a debt that would be seared into the blood, and a crime that could not be forgiven. How dare you, you madman? You must be sick of living for destroying the captain's statue. Pay with your life. A roar suddenly erupted from deep within the city. Several large presences surged into the sky as a few saint rulers that had joined the mercenaries shot toward the statue in rage. Chapter 1060. The first captain. The roars from the saint rulers rang through the entire city, so everyone learned that someone had destroyed the captain's sculpture. It threw everyone into a rage, to the point where even more mercenaries took to the skies and quickly flew toward the center. The main headquarters of the mercenaries was located toward the rear of the city. It was a palace constructed like an emperor's, and the core power of the mercenaries gathered there. The people in charge stayed in this palace. Currently, the green dressed Bai Lian and several high-ranking members of the mercenaries were sternly discussing the developments of the flame mercenaries. Suddenly, a shout passed through the various obstructions and resounded clearly in the room, disrupting Bai Lian's meeting with the others. Bai Lian's complexion immediately darkened when she heard that someone had destroyed the sculpture of her own brother. Her eyes shone with a chilling light. Humph, I'd like to see just who it is that dares to destroy my brother's sculpture. I definitely won't let them go so easily for acting so recklessly. Bai Lian was enraged. She slammed the desk and left despite the meeting. She strode outward with a darkened face, while the high-ranking members followed closely behind her. Jian Chen floated several hundred meters in the air at the center of the city. Jian Chen crossed his arms and leisurely watched as the saint rulers quickly approached him. By his side, Rue Jin floated expressionlessly, gazing at the obliterated sculpture from time to time. Some doubt also filled his eyes. The saint rulers all possessed surging presences as they drew their saint weapons. Then, they surrounded Jian Chen and Rue Jin. Surging energy pulsed wildly around them, which caused the surrounding space to slightly twist. They were ready for battle at any time. Who are you? Why have you destroyed Captain Jian Chen's sculpture? Why don't you quickly? A saint ruler yelled at Jian Chen as he glared at him, but before he had finished speaking, he became surprised. He stared blankly at Jian Chen's appearance as disbelief flooded his face. The saint ruler stared blankly at him for quite a long time. Then he asked with a trembling voice that was filled with shock. Why you're Captain Jian Chen? What? Captain Jian Chen. The four other saint rulers all became astounded when they heard this. They immediately observed Jian Chen carefully. They had never seen Jian Chen before, but they had seen his images and his sculptures, so they were familiar with his appearance. They immediately noticed that the young man really did seem the same as their captain. Another tremendous aura appeared, rapidly drawing closer to Jian Chen's location. It was the ancestor of the Bai family, Bai Hai, who flew over with Bai Lian at lightning speed. Both of their faces were pale as anger burned within them. The destruction of Jian Chen's sculpture seemed to have touched their most sensitive area. They were currently thinking about how they would viciously punish the person who destroyed the sculpture. But when the two of them saw the saint rulers that encircled Jian Chen and Rue Jin, they became stunned as stupefaction filled their faces. A bucket of cold water seemed to extinguish their roaring flames of anger, disappearing completely. Brother, how is it you? Bai Lian called out. She was astonished. Bai Hai also stared at Jian Chen in stupefaction. Then, he looked at the pile of dust that was once a sculpture. He was confused. He had already learned that the person who destroyed the sculpture was his own great-grandson by now. We greet Captain Jian Chen. The saint rulers that had arrived first finally confirmed Jian Chen's identity. Without any hesitation, they bowed and respectfully greeted Jian Chen. They were all extremely excited. Jian Chen was a legendary figure of the continent, someone that could only be heard about in stories. Even as saint rulers, they struggled to stay composed. As for their anger, it had completely disappeared long ago. Jian Chen saw Bai Lian's thin face, and his anger about the sculpture vanished in that moment. Love began to fill his heart, and he made his way through the air to Bai Lian in an instant. He then looked at her lovingly and pitifully, as he gently said, Lianer, it really must have been tiring managing the matters of the mercenaries. Bai Lian could not help but smile sweetly from Jian Chen's loving concern for her well-being. However, she then gazed past the missing sculpture in the center of the city and became confused. She asked, Brother, did you destroy the sculpture? Yes, it was me who destroyed it, Jian Chen said nonchalantly as he stared at the clouds of dust in the air. Brother, the statue was sculpted with a great deal of effort from over 100 artisans I found. Why did you destroy it? Was it badly sculpted? Bai Lian felt like she had suffered a wrong as she spoke delicately. Liener, don't get mad. Brother has no intentions of blaming you. It's just that you don't understand the origins of the mercenaries. The statue standing in the center of the city should not be depicting me, but the first captain of the flame mercenaries, Jian Chen said softly. He gazed into the horizon as reminiscence filled his eyes. The first captain? Aren't you the first captain, brother? Bai Lian became surprised as disbelief filled her face. Jian Chen shook his head. Liener, I am not the first captain of the flame mercenaries. The first captain was called Kendall. I'm only the second. The matters from the past flashed through Jian Chen's head like a movie. Jian Chen thought back to the days where he wandered the magical Beast Mountain range with the members of the flame mercenaries. He could still remember clearly that many years ago, the flame mercenaries faced the pursuit of a Class 5 golden fur tiger king. In the end, everyone died to it except him, including the first captain, Kendall. Kendall's greatest wish was for the flame mercenaries to become the greatest and most powerful mercenary group on the Tianyuan continent. As a result, Jian Chen took up the great aspiration of expanding the flame mercenaries in order to complete Kendall's wish. Back then, when he became the second captain of the flame mercenaries, he was alone. Afterward, Ming Dong joined. Now, after so many years, the mercenary group had expanded from its initial nameless state to something that could shake up the continent. Brother, who is the first captain of the flame mercenaries? Why haven't I heard a single thing about him after staying so long in the flame mercenaries? Bai Lian asked. Jian Chen sighed gently. He died many years ago. With that, Jian Chen suddenly grabbed at the ground with his two hands. The ground at the center of the city quickly began to move, and the soil surged rapidly into the air. It climbed higher and higher. In just a few seconds, Jian Chen erected a huge statue from the earth. Chapter 1061. Exploring the tungsten alloy deposit once more. All the mercenaries and merchants stared at the huge statue in shock as it had grown from the ground. Many of them became confused. The statue had completely replaced Jian Chen's sculpture, but it depicted another person. It was an honest-looking middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 40s. He was the first captain of the flame mercenaries, as well as the founder, Kendall. Jian Chen stared at the familiar face with mixed emotions as reminiscence filled his eyes. He would never forget how Kendall looked. He was like a scorching brand that had been deeply imprinted into the depths of Jian Chen's head. He could not forget him even if he wanted, and even though so many years had passed, he could recall it before his eyes exactly like when it happened. The statue that had grown from the ground was created by Jian Chen using his own abilities by taking control of the earth and then modifying it match the Kendall from his memories. This was not an extravagant expenditure. As long as one was a saint ruler that could control earth-attributed saint force, it could easily be achieved. However, Kendall's statue was still very fragile after its creation, and it lacked a certain charm. Jian Chen slowly closed his eyes, and with a single thought, the earth-attributed energy of the world immediately began to bubble, surging in from everywhere with extremely great speed. In the end, it turned into a hazy earthen yellow light that flowed unceasingly into the statue. The color of the statue immediately became to change with the input of the energy. It began to whiten at a visible rate, the soft soil turning to tough stone, becoming harder and harder. Jian Chen could control all 6 attributes of energy, including light and dark. He had gathered all the earth-attributed energy in a radius of 100 kilometers, using all he had to construct Kendall's sculpture. Yu Bai Hai, and the 5 saint rulers stared unblinkingly at the statue as it became harder and harder, observing the unfamiliar face. They all knew inside that this was probably the first captain Jian Chen spoke of. Although the statue at the center of the city which represented the glory of Flame City had completely changed, they dared not voice any objections even as high-ranking members. This was all what Jian Chen decided, and Jian Chen's status in the mercenaries was irreplaceably high. Even Bai Lian, in charge of managing the mercenaries, could not object. Jian Chen had basically become a god to every member of the mercenaries. He was the pillar of mental support for the entire group. A single casual sentence from him was like an edict from God himself. More and more people gathered around Kendall's statue, causing it to become crowded very soon. The large square became extremely packed. Most of the people were members of the Flame Mercenaries, and had come with burning rage. They wanted to brutally punish the person who destroyed Jian Chen's statue. However, they could not help but become doubtful when they saw Bai Lian and the saint rulers just floating in the air, taking no action whatsoever. They sensed that this matter did not seem as severe as they had imagined, but due to the distance and where they stood, many people could not see Jian Chen, so they failed to recognize him. After 10 whole minutes, the earth-attributed energy finally dispersed, and Kendall's sculpture was completed. Kendall's sculpture was currently as tough as steel. Jian Chen had even left a large quantity of earth-attributed energy within the sculpture, causing its toughness to greatly increase. Even Heaven Saint Masters would struggle to break it. Kendall's statue did not radiate with any earth-shaking aura. It seemed extremely ordinary. His honest and kind-looking face was created in a lifelike fashion by Jian Chen, as if Kendall was still alive. Jian Chen stood with his arms crossed as he gazed at the statue with deep emotions. He said, "Do you all see? He was the first captain of the Flame Mercenaries. His name is Kendall, and the statue that stands in the center of the city belongs to him, not me. If there was not Captain Kendall, the current Flame Mercenaries would not exist." Bai Lian and the others all stared at the statue with their full attention. Their expressions became mixed, and they remained speechless for quite some time as the information was just too astounding. At the same time, the news that Jian Chen's statue had been changed spread through the entire city like wildfire. It caused a huge commotion, causing people to discuss it everywhere and at all times. Jian Chen stayed there for a while, before returning to the palace in Flame City. Soon after that, the news regarding Kendall as the first captain of the Flame Mercenaries was spread out as well, traveling through the entire city with lightning speed. Everyone there learned about the truth regarding this matter, as well as the identity of the person that the statue depicted. Although many people believed it still should have been Jian Chen as a statue, they did not show any objections, let alone any dissatisfaction, since Jian Chen had personally saw it through. Jian Chen gained an even clearer understanding regarding Flame City from Bai Lian. Everything happened smoothly. It could be said that ever since Jian Chen had returned from the Sea Realm and had taken back the city from the Extinguishing Alliance, the status of the Flame Mercenaries skyrocketed on the Tianyuan continent, allowing the mercenaries to successfully develop in an extraordinary fashion. Also, Jian Chen learned from Bai Lian that the first few members of the mercenary group had completed their training in Walorant City. Chapter 1062. The growing metallic origin energy. Jian Chen levitated above the mountain range as he looked down in interest. He was expanding his presence fully. It quickly passed through various obstructions and entered the ground. When he had first discovered the deposit, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, had found a ball of origin essence hidden deep within the deposit. It possessed extremely great power and could assist people in breaking through to Saint King from the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. It was a rare treasure in the world. Jian Chen had also learned from the sword spirits that the origin energy hidden within the deposit was the origin energy of a metallic spirit from the 5 elements. Jian Chen's presence could pass through the obstructions of the tough tungsten alloy or to reach several hundred meters into the ground. He could clearly feel an extremely great power pulsing slowly. It was pure with no impurities whatsoever. Senior Rue Jin, you must have also discovered that something is hidden in the mountain range of the tungsten alloy deposit, Jian Chen said as he stared down unblinkingly. A gleam of light flashed through Rue Jin's eyes, and he nonchalantly replied, "I indeed have. It's an extremely pure and great power. Though it's surrounded by a thick layer of tungsten alloy. There aren't many people who can break through this layer, so it's very hard to remove." "Do you have the power to remove it with your current strength then?" Jian Chen said. Although the origin energy of the metallic spirit was of no use to himself, he wanted to use it on other people. "If you need it, I'll make an attempt at it with my sacred dragon sword," Rue Jin slowly answered. Afterward, a vast pressure began to radiate from him, and the sacred dragon sword was slowly covered by a thick layer of white light. The terrifying energy ripples caused the surrounding space to distort, showing signs of shattering apart. The origin energy of the metallic spirit is much greater than before. It's actually growing. Master, get Rue Jin to stop immediately. What he's doing will destroy it. Zi Ying's voice suddenly rang through Jian Chen's head. The sacred dragon sword was already lifted high up, Rue Jin was just about to cleave down. Senior Rue Jin, let's wait actually. Jian Chen also reacted quickly. He immediately stopped Rue Jin, before concentrating on his sea of consciousness to converse with the sword spirits. Master, this ball of metallic origin energy is rapidly growing. If it has enough time, it will become even stronger and even gain self-awareness. It will grow into a spirit and become something like the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. Taking it out now would be destroying it, no doubt, Ziying explained. Surprise flashed through Jian Chen's eyes. Pausing for a while in thought, he then said, how long would it roughly need to mature completely? We are unable to estimate that. It'll all depend on its rate of growth. However, the origin energy will become more powerful with time. Once it gains self-awareness, it will morph into a spirit. It will be richly endowed with talent and can cultivate at a heaven-defying rate. It will have great accomplishments in the future, said Ziying. The barrier spirit of Mercenary City is also a spirit born from energy. However, it came from the essence of the earth, so it's just slightly below the metallic origin energy of the 5 elements. It's a pity that the barrier spirit's innately incomplete, or her accomplishments would be far greater than right now, sighed Ziying. It's just that the chances for it to morph into a spirit are just too low. I cannot guarantee whether the origin energy will gain self-awareness or not. It'll all depend on its fortune, said Ziying. Jian Chen hesitated slightly with what the sword spirits had said, but he ended up giving up on the idea of taking the origin energy of the metallic spirit. Since it had a lot of room for growth, why not just give it some time? It would obviously be best if it could morph into a spirit, but even if it could not become self-aware, it would become even more powerful after a period of time. At that time, the benefits would be even greater if it was used to increase strength. Senior Rue Jin, let's leave the origin energy a little longer. It won't be too late to remove it when we need it, Jian Chen said to Rue Jin. You make the decision. When you want to remove it, I can assist you in breaking through the tungsten alloy shell, said Rue Jin. Right now, his opinion of Jian Chen was rapidly rising. They had become people at similar levels of strength long ago. Even if he had no need to keep Jian Chen alive, just his talent and cultivation speed was enough to hold him in high esteem. Jian Chen and Rue Jin's eyes froze suddenly, and they turned to look in the same direction simultaneously. On the horizon, a faint gleam of 5-colored light appeared, causing the sky to become all colorful. It was pretty. Another person's reached Saint Ruler. By the direction, it should be quite close to Jessen Kingdom, Jian Chen mumbled. He was extremely indifferent to the matter. Rue Jin casually glanced at the direction before losing interest as well. Reaching Saint Ruler was a big deal to normal people, but it was nothing to his eyes. Jian Chen did not pay too much attention to the rainbow clouds in the distance either. If it was several years ago, he would treat Saint Rulers as extremely strong experts, but they had all become extremely weak now, like ants. He really could not find any interest in people at those levels anymore. Jian Chen and Rue Jin left the mountain range together, returning to the city. He handed a flaming jadeite had been filled with Rue Jin's power to Bai Lian as a treasure to guard the city. Afterward, Jian Chen summoned the 5 saint rulers that had joined the mercenaries and spoke with them. He made them swear some oaths, told them about the consequences of betrayal and so on. He then went to see Du Gufeng. He originally wanted Du Gufeng to put down what he was doing for the time being, so that he could devote all his energy into cultivation. However, Jian Chen could not do anything since Du Gufeng liked his current job very much. Jian Chen had basically subdued Du Gufeng like a servant back then, but he always treated Du Gufeng as a good friend in the past years. He never forced Du Gufeng to do anything, which was why Jian Chen did not meddle with Du Gufeng's choice. Jian Chen, the disparity between our strengths is now like the distance from the ground to the sky. I can't catch up to you no matter how hard I cultivate, so there's no longer a point for me to follow you. All I can do is stay in Flame City and help you manage some affairs. Flame City is very big, but it has developed way too fast, so there's many problems with the management since it has failed to develop at the same rate. The 2 worst areas are the rules and the discipline. If those aren't managed well, problems will happen to the mercenaries sooner or later. This was Du Gufeng's explanation to Jian Chen as well as his reason for taking up the position of a disciplinary elder. Jian Chen stayed for another 2 days in the city before leaving with Bai Hai after handing over some matters. He returned to the Chongyang clan in Lore City through a space gate from Rue Jin. As soon as he returned, Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao came looking for him. He called Jian Chen into a conference hall while Rui Jin and Bai Hai both left to rest. They did not follow him to the hall. Jian Chen discovered a few unfamiliar people as soon as he entered the grand hall. They were an old man and 3 women. However, the thing that surprised Jian Chen was that Yu Yu was actually present as well and not cultivating in outer space. Her complexion was not very great. Jian Chen's face sank slightly when he noticed Yu Yu's expression. He seemed to realize something before observing the 4 outsiders. The old man possessed a ruddy and sagely aura, like some old immortal. He sat there leisurely and did not speak. Jian Chen had seen the old man before. He was one of the great elders of the Chongyang Protector clan, a saint king at the 6th heavenly layer. One of the 3 women was a middle-aged beauty. She was a saint ruler while the other 2 ladies seemed to be in their 20s. They stood out quite a lot with their appearances as well, though they were heaven saint masters. Jian Chen, this is one of the 7 great elders of the Chongyang clan, Chongyang Qing Jueri. He would be a great-grandfather of yours in terms of seniority. Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao introduced for Jian Chen. Chongyang Qing Jueri stared at Jian Chen ever since he had come in. Even if they obtain it, they can't use it for cultivation since they need a specific constitution, which can only be obtained through the personal modifications of Master, said Yu Yu. They might not believe that. Fairy Hao Yu may still be alive, but she's reduced to a soul. Her capability of deterrence is no longer as great as before. Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao said after some thought. He hesitated slightly before continuing once more. Jian Chen, the seal in Conger mine still has not been released. The Protector clan wants you to return, and then the 7 great elders can work together to release the seal. I hope you can make some time to visit the Protector clan regardless of how you feel about them, so you can release Conger from his 1,000 years of pain. Jian Chen agreed after a pause. I'll visit the Protector clan in 3 days. It'll all be for great-grandfather though. Chapter 1064. Visiting the Huanggu clan. Jian Chen left the conference hall with Yu Yu. The 2 of them first visited Jian Chen's parents. During their conversation, Bai Yuntian mentioned the marriage between Jian Chen and Yu Yu once more, but it was evaded by both of them together. Jian Chen was now in possession of enough strength to protect himself and the people around him, but there were still many matters he needed to deal with. He was in no mood to consider marriage. On the other hand, Yu Yu now had the Bright Moon Divine Hall as well as Fairy Hao Yu's cultivation method. Right now, her only objective was to increase her strength as fast and as much as possible, devoting all her energy into cultivation. She would consider marriage once she possessed enough strength to help out Jian Chen. Bidding farewell to Bai Yuntian and Chongyang Ba, Yu Yu did not stick by Jian Chen's side for very long. She entered the Divine Hall once more, going to outer space to cultivate. Once I drop off Uncle Chong, great-grandfather Bai Hai, Yang Ling, and Senior Huang Tianba at Mercenary City, I'll go to the Protector clan immediately and get them to release great-grandfather Chongyang Zhu Yunkong's seal, Jian Chen thought after leaving his parents' room. The main reason why he visited Flame City last time was to take Bai Hai with him. He planned on leaving Bai Hai in Mercenary City so Xiao Ling could invoke the mysteries of the world for him to comprehend. Now it's just Senior Huang Tianba. The Huang family just happens to be rather close to here, so I'll go by myself. Jian Chen shot off like a cannonball, climbing high up into the sky with extremely great speed. He shot off in the direction of the Huang family, disappearing in the blink of an eye. He could not help but think of a flawless beauty in his head. He thought, it's been so many years. I wonder how Luaner's been. With her talent, she should have made great improvement in these years. Jian Chen immediately sped up some more after that thought. The Huang family was over 30,000 kilometers away from the Jessen kingdom. With Jian Chen's speed, he only needed 2 short hours before arriving at the beautiful mountain, abundant with energy of the world, where the Huang family resided. Jian Chen descended outside the entrance of the manor. He did not conceal his presence, so he was discovered by experts of the Huang family as soon as he arrived. Several Heaven Saint Masters immediately shot out from within. They all became surprised when they recognized Jian Chen, and their stern faces immediately became replaced with smiles. They politely welcomed Jian Chen into the clan. With Jian Chen's current fame on the continent, almost all hermit clans had heard about him. His current level of status could not be compared to his past. The Huang family immediately became overwhelmed by Jian Chen's sudden visit. Not only did the patriarch personally come out to receive him, even people of previous generations came out of seclusion. Jian Chen was younger than any of them, but he was still a saint king after all. He was indisputably someone who held great power on the continent where strength determined all. Jian Chen struggled a little to adapt to how everyone in the Huang family had come out to receive him. After conversing with the patriarch slightly, he cut to the chase. "Patriarch, I've come this time to find Senior Huang Tianba. May I ask where he is currently?" The ancestor has always been cultivating in seclusion, and he hasn't appeared in several years already. "I will bring you to him if you are looking for the ancestor," said the patriarch, before directly flying to the rear of the mountain with Jian Chen and a few other experts of the clan. Very quickly, Jian Chen arrived at the sword-shaped ridge where Huang Tianba stayed in seclusion. It was surrounded by a barrier, and inside stood a single, old wooden hut. "Descendant greets the old ancestor. Brother Jian Chen has come to our clan." The patriarch spoke courteously to the hut as he stood outside the barrier. Jian Chen stared nonchalantly at the hut and some wonder appeared in his eyes. He said, "Patriarch, there's no need to keep calling. Senior Huang Tianba's not in there." "What? The ancestor's not there?" The patriarch became stunned. Jian Chen nodded slightly before expanding his presence. He enveloped a radius of 1,000 kilometers in an attempt to find signs of Huang Tianba, but there was nothing. "If I can't find him in the radius of 1,000 meters, expanding my presence any further than that would result in the same outcome. Looks like the senior's not in the clan right now," thought Jian Chen. The patriarch thought a little and said, "Brother, Huang Wan's a disciple of the ancestor from the Huanggu clan. She's always stayed in the Huanggu clan cultivating while the ancestor treats her like a treasure. Since the ancestor's not with us, he's probably gone to the Huanggu clan to see her." "Huang Wan's at the Huanggu clan," repeated Jian Chen inside. He then said, "I'll visit the Huanggu clan then." Jian Chen declined the patriarch's attempts to get him to stay, leaving immediately after learning where the Huanggu clan was. The Huanggu clan was located in the south, hidden in a forest that was always covered with mist and filled with magical beasts. Very few people knew about its existence. A 1,000-meter-tall tower stood in the center of the clan. That tower was the most sacred building in the clan since it was where the ancestor cultivated. A disheveled old man hung in the air of the top room in the tower. The room was completely sealed and slightly gloomy while the man was surrounded with huge, thick chains. He looked like a beggar. The old man possessed very great strength. Every time he struggled, the chains would rattle, but he could not break free from them no matter how hard he tried. "You mongrel! You will pay for this. If I break free, I will never let you go." The old man's voice was hoarse with hatred. Before him stood the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. The ancestor was at ease and possessed a sneer. "Huang Tianba, do you still think you have a chance at revenge? Why don't you think about your current predicament? Do you think you still have the ability to break free? You better give up on that thought. Mongrel, my Huang family has never done anything to your Huanggu clan. Why do you do this to me?" Huang Tianba gnashed his teeth. He was haggard, no longer possessing his former glory. Chapter 1065. Disaster at the doorstep. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan sneered. "Huang Tianba, your precious great-granddaughter has already become a saint ruler now, and my great plan is about to come to an end. You are already someone at your end, so it doesn't matter even if I tell you. Huang Tianba, have you ever heard about the water spirit's body?" The ancestor said. "The water spirit's body? What water spirit's body? What has that got to do with my beloved great-granddaughter?" Huang Tianba questioned. He had no idea about the specific constitution. "I can understand why you don't know." The Huanggu clan ancestor sneered. "The scripture of the aquatic sunflower I practice is a water-attributed saint tier cultivation method. The water spirit's body is recorded in there." The water spirit's body is an extremely rare and special type of constitution on the Tianyuan continent. It very rarely appears on the continent. It's difficult to come across someone with it, even over the span of 100,000 years. Anyone with that constitution is endowed with great talent for water-attributed cultivation methods. Not only do they improve at an astonishing speed, their future accomplishments are immeasurable. They have the potential to reach Saint Emperor. A powerful gleam of yearning began to glow in the ancestor's eyes when he mentioned Saint Emperor. Are you saying that my great-granddaughter is in possession of this water spirit's body that you mentioned? But what intentions do you have by taking her in as your disciple and passing the scripture of the aquatic sunflower to her? Huang Tianba's eyes shone with interest as he stared tightly at the Huanggu clan ancestor. Correct. That girl indeed is in possession of this rare constitution, but it has not been completely activated yet. If it were not for the wonders of the scripture of the aquatic sunflower, probably no one would have been able to discover her constitution beforehand, chuckled the Huanggu clan ancestor. You mongrel, so you want to control Wanner and turn her into a puppet of your clan. Huang Tianba became enraged. He struggled furiously against the chains as he hung in mid-air, producing clanking sounds. Control? Ha ha ha, I've spent so much effort, and even passed the scripture of the aquatic sunflower to that girl. It's not going to be as simple as controlling her. I'm just helping her unlock the potential of her constitution, which I'll then absorb all her talent and pure water-attributed Saint Force through a secret technique. My strength will skyrocket and I will reach Saint King. At the same time, I will have hopes of reaching Saint Emperor in the future. The ancestor's eyes burned with greed. You bastard, you won't succeed. My great-granddaughter is Jian Chen's woman. Not only is Jian Chen a prodigy with unlimited potential, he has close ties with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. If you even touch my great-granddaughter, Jian Chen will never let you go. Huang Tianba roared hoarsely as surging hatred filled his eyes. Fear immediately appeared in the depths of the ancestor's eyes upon hearing Jian Chen. Although he had never left the clan in the recent years, he had an extremely clear understanding about the matters outside, especially with matters regarding Jian Chen. He knew even more than Huang Tianba. Jian Chen had resisted the 10 protector clans all by himself and had even caused them to back off. That was Jian Chen's power. But the ancestor seemed to think of something very soon. The fear in his eyes immediately vanished and he sneered. Huang Tianba, you're still thinking of Jian Chen even no? I must admit that he is a junior with shocking talent, but why would he come to my Huanggu clan? Even if he comes, he won't do anything to me. His lips curled into a sinister smile. After all, your beloved great-granddaughter has already reached Saint Ruler successfully. All her potential has been completely unlocked. I'll go find her right now, and very soon, there will be one more Saint King on the continent. No matter how great Jian Chen's abilities are, it's impossible for him to learn about what is happening here. You mongrel, I will never let you go even if I come back as a ghost. Huang Tianba roared furiously as his body trembled violently. However, his voice lacked power. With the current circumstances, he was indeed at the mercy of the ancestor. His strength was sealed. He did not even have the power to resist. Ha 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 ha, Huang Tianba, you better stay here and personally witness the birth of another Saint King, the ancestor wildly laughed, as if his future of reaching Saint King was already set in stone. The complacent smile on his face slowly vanished. However, just as he wanted to leave the room, a mighty voice suddenly rang from outside. The captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Senior Jian Chen, has come to visit the Huanggu clan. Jian Chen's voice was rather plain, but it spread out in all directions in the form of a visible sound waves. Not only did it cause all of the buildings in the clan to shake slightly, it passed through various obstacles, allowing everyone to hear it extremely clearly. Even those who were in completely sealed rooms, in seclusion, were not an exception. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan reacted abruptly as he was about to close the door to the room. In that moment, any joy of his completely vanished, and his complexion took a horrible turn. Deep fear and dread began to flood his eyes. Jian Chen. It's actually Jian Chen. Jian Chen's come to my Huanggu clan. The ancestor struggled to maintain his calm and composure as before. His heart began to heavily thump. In that moment, without even realizing it, he had already begun to tremble slightly. Crap. It'll be troublesome now. How has that bloody Jian Chen found his way here? Why can't he come a little later? His heart grew cold. What he dreaded the most was finally about to happen. Ha 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 ha, it's Brother Jian Chen. He's come. He has the support of the Grand Elder from Mercenary City. You mongrel, I'd like to see what you do now. Huang Tianba became filled with vigor once more. In that moment, he seemed to catch the glimpse of a ray of light in pure darkness. He had seen the hope of breaking out. Bang! The ancestor of the Huanggu clan slammed the door shut, as if he was afraid that Huang Tianba's voice would make it to Jian Chen's ears. His complexion was extremely horrible, and he became unsettled. He wanted to run, but once he thought about Jian Chen's current strength, he immediately gave up on that thought. Suddenly, an idea crossed his mind. He thought, Jian Chen may have come to my clan, but he has no idea about how I've been dealing with Huang Tianba and Huang Luan. In other words, the situation still hasn't reached its worst point. I still have a sliver of hope, and I also have a final trump card to keep me alive. He immediately calmed down by quite a bit with that before quickly dismissing his thoughts. He left the tower as if nothing had happened, personally going up to welcome Jian Chen. Ha ha ha, so it's my friend Jian Chen who's suddenly paid a visit. Your fame on the continent these days is like the noon sun, just as dazzling and unstoppable. It truly is an honor for you to visit my clan. If this news breaks out, my clan's status will definitely skyrocket on the continent. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan laughed excitedly from afar, flattering Jian Chen. Chapter 1066. Huang Tianba saved. Jian Chen knew that the ancestor of the Huanggu clan was Huang Luan's master, so he spoke relatively politely. He did not give off any particular presence, so he looked just like an ordinary person right now, floating mid-air as if he was standing. The ancestor's face was filled with smiles, arriving before Jian Chen with fake excitement. His compliments flowed unceasingly from his mouth, buttering up to Jian Chen. Jian Chen was oblivious to Huang Luan and Huang Tianba's current situation, which was why he responded very amicably to the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. After all, he was Huang Luan's master. The two of them conversed a little before cutting to the chase. Jian Chen said, Senior, may I ask if Luaner and Senior Huang Tianba is with you? The ancestor's heart sank once again, but he showed none of it. He smiled. I was thinking that Brother Jian Chen would be visiting for my beloved disciple and Huang Tianba. It's a pity though you've come too late. My disciple's gone out for training while Huang Tianba is not in my clan either. What? They're not at your clan? Jian Chen was astounded. Yep. They're not with me right now. Huang Tianba may have gone traveling. Brother Jian Chen, if you want to find them, I'll contact you immediately if they come back to my Huanggu clan, the ancestor leisurely replied. However, no one knew that his emotions inside were the exact opposite. He wished that Jian Chen would leave as soon as possible. With every moment Jian Chen stayed, his uneasiness would increase. Jian Chen could not help but feel confused with what the ancestor had said. He had learned from Yu Yu that ever since Huang Luan had left Flame City to go to the Huanggu clan all those years ago, she had never appeared. There had not even been a single piece of news about her. When he first heard that, Jian Chen thought that Huang Luan had always remained in the Huang family, cultivating arduously. However, only with his visit from before did he discover that Huang Luan did not stay at the Huang family at all. As a result, there was only the Huanggu clan. Jian Chen felt suspicious about Huang Luan going out for training mentioned by the ancestor. Suddenly, Jian Chen expanded his presence and enveloped the entire clan. He wanted to check whether it was actually like the ancestor said. Jian Chen's presence was extremely powerful. Combined with how profound it was, it passed through all the defenses and obstacles of the clan easily, allowing him to observe the clan clearly. However, Jian Chen's complexion changed the moment his presence swept through the tower in the center of the clan. A terrifying light exploded from his eyes and anger began to fume from him. Inside contained a deep killing intent as well. He had sensed a beggar-like old man, wrapped in chains within the hidden room. This time, he did not treat the ancestor as politely as before. He ignored his painful cries, taking him away by grabbing his clothes. The Huanggu clan had fallen into chaos as of right now. The activity from the destruction of the tower had alarmed all the people in the clan. Everyone stopped their cultivation and stepped out of their residences to check what was happening outside. All the members of the upper echelon had already arrived beside Huang Tianba in the meantime. They all stared at him in shock as disbelief flooded their faces. They all recognized Huang Tianba as the ancestor of the Huang family, but they had no idea what their own ancestor had done. They all felt extremely shocked with Huang Tianba's current appearance, completely confused about what had happened. At this moment, a vast presence appeared in the distance. Jian Chen returned furiously to the clan with the ancestor of the Huanggu clan and landed on the ground. Afterward, he made his way to Huang Tianba, step by step while carrying the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. His face was sunken while his eyes were icy cold. Dense killing intent continued to linger on him. Ancestor! Ancestor! The group of people recognized that Jian Chen currently carried their ancestor with a single glance. Their faces all changed drastically as they called out sorrowfully. Release the ancestor! A middle-aged heaven saint master cried out, charging at Jian Chen with a saint weapon. His eyes were bloodshot from anger. Piss off! Jian Chen angrily yelled out. He did not even glance at the person as he punched out. He used the toughness of his body to resist the person's saint weapon. Ding! Jian Chen's fist collided with the saint weapon, and it shattered like tofu from Jian Chen's punch. Jian Chen's fist continued on with no reduction in force, mercilessly landing on the Heaven Saint Master's chest. The Heaven Saint Master spurted blood from his mouth as he shot back like a cannonball. He passed through several buildings before stopping 100 meters away in the end. His entire chest had caved in, and his organs had all turned to mush from the might of Jian Chen's punch. Sixth Elder! The Heaven Saint Masters of the Huanggu clan all called out, immediately flying to the man who had been injured by Jian Chen. They discovered that he had lost all signs of life. Jian Chen's casual punch had claimed his life on the spot. All the people of the Huanggu clan immediately quietened down after witnessing Jian Chen's strength. They all stared at him in surprise and fear. No one else dared to say anything more. They stepped aside to give way to Jian Chen. Jian Chen, you're still a supreme expert of the continent after all. You've actually murdered a Heaven Saint Master. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan furiously yelled out. The person who had passed away was his great-grandson as well as the most talented person in the clan. He was treated with great importance by the ancestor. Chapter 1067. Huang Luan reaches Saint Ruler. It doesn't matter who you are. If you attack me, I'll kill you without mercy, Jian Chen coldly said. His impression of the Huanggu clan had completely reversed. He treated them as enemies now. Huang Tianba had showed great kindness to him before, and he was also Huang Luan's great-grandfather. It did not matter what happened between Huang Tianba and the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. Jian Chen would always stand by Huang Tianba's side. Jian Chen slowly made his way to Huang Tianba's side with the legless ancestor in his hand. He threw him to the ground mercilessly before squatting down. He asked in concern, Senior Huang, are you all right? Just what has happened? Huang Tianba eyed the ancestor of the Huanggu clan that had collapsed on the ground like mud. He felt extremely delighted inside and was also extremely shocked by Jian Chen's strength. Huang Tianba's understanding of Jian Chen's strength remained at the level from several years ago. He had no idea just how terrifying Jian Chen had become. Brother Jian Chen, that mongrel did all this to me all because my precious great-granddaughter is in possession of the rare water spirit's body. She's a prodigy with unlimited potential in the future. She is currently trapped by this bastard over 1,000 meters underground in a room. Please go save her. Huang Tianba spoke rather hurriedly. He was extremely concerned for Huang Luan's well-being. Jian Chen's face changed with that. He immediately expanded his presence and had indeed discovered Huang Luan trapped in a room underground. The room was enveloped by a powerful barrier. Jian Chen's heart ached when he saw Huang Luan's haggard face. He could not imagine just how much pain she had gone through during these years. A killing intent even more powerful than before erupted from the bottom of Jian Chen's heart, targeting the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. Senior Huang Tianba, I'll free you from your chains first, Jian Chen hoarsely said. He grabbed the thick chains with his two hands, and with some force, the chains were crushed to pieces with a few cracks. Although the chains were made from a special type of metal, they were not unbreakable. Huang Tianba's strength was sealed up, so he could not use his powers as a saint ruler. That was why he was chained up for so long. Huang Tianba recovered his freedom and teetered as he stood up. He thanked Jian Chen, before arriving in front of the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. He laughed out loud without any restraint before gnashing his teeth. Never did you think that you would end up like now, did you? I'd like to see how you harm my precious great-granddaughter now. Huang Tianba's voice was filled with resentment. He kicked the ancestor's body as he spoke, but since his strength was currently sealed, as well as the fact that he had been chained up for so long, not only did he fail to hurt the Huanggu clan ancestor, he lost his footing and ended up staggering back. Jian Chen helped Huang Tianba regain his balance with one hand and said, "Senior Huang Tianba, I'll leave this person with you to deal with. Your strength is currently sealed. You should enter the Saint artifact space where I'll get someone to remove the seal from you." Jian Chen was unable to remove the seal in Huang Tianba as the brutality of chaotic force was not something ordinary people could endure. If his chaotic force entered Huang Tianba's body, it would harm him rather than help him. "No, I have to kill this bastard right now." Huang Tianba was absolutely furious. Killing intent surged from him. He utterly despised the ancestor of the Huanggu clan inside. The Huanggu clan ancestor looked up at the furious Huang Tianba. Not only was fear absent in his eyes, he even laughed complacently. "Ha ha ha, Huang Tianba, I can give a reason why you won't want to kill me, unless you want your precious great-granddaughter to die." Huang Tianba's expression changed immediately with that. He glared at the ancestor of the Huanggu clan and roared out, "Bastard, what did you do to her?" Even Jian Chen's expression took a turn for the worse with that. "Ha ha ha ha, Huang Tianba, I'll tell you since you want to know." His face was filled with smugness. Even after falling into Jian Chen's hands, he did not fear losing his life. "I've cast an ancient secret technique on the soul of your precious great-granddaughter long ago. I've left behind an imprint that entwines our fates in her soul. If you kill me, the imprint will erupt and kill her as well, wiping out her soul. Huang Tianba, kill me if you want your great-granddaughter to die as well." With that, Huang Tianba and Jian Chen's faces both darkened in expression. If that truly was the case, they dared not kill him. "Senior Huang Tianba, I'll let you into the artifact space to remove the seal first. I'll immediately go check on Huang Luan and see if that really is the case," Jian Chen emotionlessly said to Huang Tianba. He then used the Saint artifact to suck him away before he could even object. At the same time, he contacted the artifact spirit to get Hong Lian and He Yu to remove Huang Tianba's seal. Jian Chen obviously would not let the ancestor of the Huanggu clan go either. He also sucked him away, but his treatment in the artifact space would be a whole different story. The members of the Huanggu clan stood in the surroundings, stunned. All of them experienced mixed expressions. None of them had thought that their ancestor would actually do something so treacherous to the Huang family, a family they were always on good terms with. All of them were extremely shocked and struggled to accept this, feeling extremely heavy inside. They dared not show any disrespect to Jian Chen. Although they did not know about Jian Chen as well as their ancestor, they had heard about him at the very least and knew that Jian Chen was not someone their clan could agitate. Not to mention, their strongest member, their ancestor, just had his legs cleaved off, which deterred them from acting recklessly before Jian Chen even more. With a dark face, Jian Chen's eyes swept over all of the clansmen of the Huanggu clan. Whoever he stared at felt like a sharp sword was poised against them. They shivered inside, all lowering their heads. They were all completely unsettled. Jian Chen did not make it difficult for these people. He understood that they had no clue about this matter at all and knew nothing of what their ancestor had done. Afterward, Jian Chen expanded his presence straight into the ground, finding the tunnel leading to the room where Huang Luan was. He then climbed down it. Huang Luan sat in the middle of the sealed room. Dazzling water blue light lit up her surroundings, making her seem sacred and dignified, like a god. The surroundings of the room were filled with droplets of crystal-clear water. Each droplet radiated with a blue glow, dyeing the entire room a deep blue. It was rather pretty. There were a few droplets of water that drifted about, slowly rotating around Huang Luan. They were like energetic fairies, filled with beauty. Huang Luan's presence was countless times greater than before. The 5-colored rainbow clouds that had appeared several days ago were because of her. She was no longer a heaven saint master anymore, but a saint ruler. The hidden potential of Huang Luan's water spirit's body was fully unlocked as she reached saint ruler. It was truly the water spirit's body now. She was like the mother of water, extremely close with the water-attributed energy in the world. She could control it as she wished, at a proficiency that no one could rival. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.